What day is it? And in what month this clock never seems. I can't give up, and I can't back down. I've been losing so much time. 'Cause it's you and me and all of the people and nothing to do and nothing to prove. And it's you and me and all of the people, and I don't know why I can't keep my eyes off of you. What are the things that I want to say? What's up, baby? What's up, Nevercroft? Yeah, I'm getting ready for this thing with Stax. I don't have anything pulled up yet, so it's karaoke hour right now, baby. We take requests. Throw some Shania in there. That don't impress me much. Ding, 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 ding. Oh, yeah. Dude, what about these Supreme Court decisions, man? I'm starting to think we might not need a Supreme Court. I'm thinking that maybe we should try something else. I'm thinking. Copy link. Bye. That don't impress me. Let's see. Nevercroft says, thinking eat the rich may not be such a bad idea here lately. Well, I never thought it would be literal, but after all the financial woes that student borrowers will be suffering, they might have to eat some flesh, like because they can't afford anything else. Chatula says, good night here from Prague, 2 a.m. here. Well, I appreciate you popping in there, Chatula. Hey, if you want, you can keep this on as background noise. It will definitely put you to sleep because Stax and I are going to be talking politics, American politics, just what the Prague citizenry wants to hear. Ryan, have you watched Andor yet? If you're still here, have you watched Andor? Just walked in the door from work. Needed this. What's going on, Laura? Twisted Coconut. Aloha from Maui, Hawaii. Nevercross says, I mean, let's be fair. Orange Man Bad has been quite a circus lately. Yeah, to say the least. And Orange Man Who's Bad may very well yet be president again in 2024. Shudder the thought, but that's the political climate in which we find ourselves. Oh, damn it. Let's see. Would like to know. Folks, why can I not find this? What was the Supreme Court decision? Was it Biden v. Nebraska? Man, I'm blanking on the name. I think it was Biden v. Nebraska. It sure was. Okay, cool. Nevercross says, "Yes, I have great stuff." Yeah, for those of you who are watching and who are Star Wars fans, while we wait for Stacks, you need to watch. Stack says that I'm not going to be right on time. I do have to get home, but I should be in like 10 minutes after the hour. Stacks, I'm telling you, man, just wildly unprofessional. Just wildly. Easy on the eyes, though, so I guess we'll keep him around. But uh Pop says, I haven't. Is it worth watching? It is sure is, Pop. Father. Pop is my father. I'm convinced. I don't know. Maybe not. Yeah, Andor is amazing. I think Andor is the best live action Star Wars since The Empire Strikes Back. Now it's a slow burn, right? So if you're looking for space battles and Jedi and Sith, which are huge elements of Star Wars, you would definitely be at the wrong place. They stay far away from Jedi and Sith and Force users, and I think the story works better for that reason. It's about the radicalization of these young disparate rebels, particularly Cassian Andor, who was in Rogue One. He's basically he's a loner, he's a scavenger, he's morally ambiguous, he has absolutely zero interest in rebellion, and it's basically a season long journey into his radicalization. And it's a really, I mean, great dialogue, great setting. Like the visuals are incredible, even though it's not really a visual spectacle. When it does go for visual spectacle, it's incredible. And even though it's more of a political and psychological drama than anything else, when it does do action, it's really good. So, like in one episode, there's like a shootout between Andor and they're not stormtroopers, but they're the they're some sort of like they're evil mooks, right? They're just like they're rank and file grunts, but they actually use terrain. It's not just like marching in a straight line, just shooting at each other. Like they use the terrain, they hide behind stuff, they try to manipulate the terrain by like dropping debris and hiding behind cover. It's really, really, really good. It's right. It's the same. It's the way the old Republic acts. Yeah, the less Force user you interact with, the better the story. Yeah, because the Imperial Agent storyline is really the only good one. Pop says, if he becomes president again, I am very afraid how it'll affect not just the USA but the world in general. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's a really scary. It's so weird to think about that we have designed. So this actually goes to stuff that I've talked about with Destiny and with Staxioms and with Luke Beasley and others. It's a recurring point I try to make on this channel persuasively, which is political systems at the end of the day, no matter how you codify it, no matter what you write, and you should write very, very carefully, right? When you're designing a political system, creating a constitution, at the end of the day, there's only so much for which you can account. And these are not contracts like in The Little Mermaid or Supernatural or Harry Potter, where you put a thing on ink and it becomes magically binding, right? So it's all predicated on good faith. You can write whatever the hell you want. Like, I mean, my God, I'm trying to think like, again, like to me, like the classic example is when it came to when Trump tried to pressure Mike Pence into overturning the election. Like we can look it up. The vice president shall count the votes. Like we will look it up. Um, okay. Let me do a screen share here since we're going to get to it anyway. Share screen, share window. All right. So like this right here. Look at this crap. Look at this. The 12th Amendment. The President of the Senate, which is the Vice President, shall, in the presence of the Senate and the House of Representatives, open all the certificates and the votes shall then be counted. That is about as straightforward as a thing can possibly. But if you get like deliberately obtuse, bad faith idiots like the Republicans were during 2020 election, the certification, or excuse me, Biden's 2020 victory and the certification of it, they can interpret that in any which way they want, right? Because they can just be deliberately obtuse. You can't bad faith proof a system. And so it's amazing to think that we are in an environment in 2023 where the United States, which is either the first or second oldest continuous democratic republic in terms of duration, 250 years, where a guy can be federally indicted on 38 crimes for 38 crimes, 38 counts, indicted by a state at the same time for like 14 or whatever it is, like he's in the 50s or 60s at this point. And the crimes aren't just like, again, it's not like you fail to pay a parking ticket or whatever. It's like substantive and directly relevant to the office that he once held and is seeking to hold again, right? Again, so it's not like, it's not one of those things that they say, well, has no bearing on a president, right? Kind of like when, President Clinton, the Monica Lewinsky scandal, right? I mean, set the perjury thing aside where he lied about getting a blowjob from Monica Lewinsky. For a lot of people, I mean, I was young, I was 8 or 9 or whatever when it happened, but a lot of people at the time were like, listen, even though he shouldn't have lied, the lie has nothing to do with his performance as president. It's more a reflection of who he is as a husband, right? But the stuff that Trump has done here, it's not relevant to really his personal life. It's about his public life. The willful retention of national defense information and showing it off to like ghostwrite. Like, I mean, it's so, and the fact that he's still eligible to run for office, there's no law which forbids him from running for office. It's insane. And even if he's convicted, like theoretically, if he's convicted, he could pardon himself, right? At least in theory. Most legal scholars say that that's, that doesn't make any sense. But again, if you read the pardon power, you know, on paper, he can pardon himself. Now, again, I think the founding fathers would have been like, no, we obviously don't mean for a corrupt president to be able to commit whatever crime with impunity and then pardon himself. That makes no damn sense. The Latin is the idea that, you can't be a judge in your own trial, but it wasn't written down. And so you have bad faith idiots on the right who are like, yeah, I guess he can just pardon himself. He can just do whatever he wants. And then we just get him elected and then he can like pardon himself. Stupid stuff like that. So yeah, it all hinges on good faith. And that is in short supply right now. Laura says, would you need to be up to date on the Star Wars verse to watch Andor? Because I literally haven't tuned in since the OG trilogy. No, actually, you're probably better off that way. Now, you should probably, I mean, you're dealing with a prequel involving some characters from Rogue One, which came out in 2016. It's a prelude to Episode 4, A New Hope. But no, you don't really need it because most of the characters are original. Nevercroft says, system's basically dead. Let's be fair. It was molded into a two-party system that required both sides to act in good faith. Yeah, precisely. And that's the thing. That's why I try to tell people, like, when I get into arguments with or debates with people who are more staunchly institutionalist than I am, even though I do consider myself an institutionalist, I'm just willing to draw the line sooner than most. They say, well, sure, the GOP acts in bad faith, but, we still need to have good faith. And it's like, okay, if you have a conversation between two people and one person's acting in good faith and another one isn't, do you know what you call that conversation? A bad faith conversation. The thing about good faith is inherently in some sort of exchange or communication or interlocution, both parties have to be good faith for the thing to be good faith, right? So you can't have, it's almost like, hey, we're two parties in a contract. Is the relationship successful? Well, no, not if one person's violating the terms of the contract. You can say, well, the other person isn't. Well, still, it's the entire thing requires reciprocity and reliability and things like that. So it's ridiculous. Ella says, yo, that Fozzie Bear is so good. WT, I'm a man of many talents. Ella, hey, Ryan, Ella is a Buffy fan like the two of us. Ella is a staunch Buffy fan. She and I bonded over this when we were bullying Staxioms one day. So we just really made a deep and abiding connection. And it was over Buffy. And Ella, Nevercroft, Ryan, he and I, we grew up together and we watched Buffy basically every damn day after school, whenever we'd be at each other's houses. It was a lot of fun. I had my crush on Sarah Michelle Gellar. Nevercroft. Oh my God, it's all coming back. His crush was Drusilla, Juliet Landau. He had a huge crush on Drusilla, of all people. He liked the crazy ones. Pop says, or no, it's Nevercroft. Hang on, go back. Pop says it's crazy how hacks like Tim Pool are completely pretending he wasn't showing documents. Dude, that's what I'm saying. Honestly, so there again, not to out people, but I know like this. I have a dear friend in real life. This man made me pilot the villains in the game. Made me pilot. Oh, you're talking about the Buffy game, bro. Yes. Low key, the Buffy the Vampire Slayer game, which came out in 2001, was legitimately one of the best Xbox games. I'll die on that hill. As a matter of fact, I remember the official Xbox magazine where they would, grade the video games. The Buffy game, of all things, got like a 9. Ella goes, God, Drusilla is so hot. Ryan is so right for that. Oh, here we go. She was. She had she was. Now I loved her, especially in Angel. When you get more of Darla's background. And Ella, I'm gonna throw or excuse me, Ryan, I'm gonna throw Ella under the bus. Don't let her fool you. Her crush is the master. What a stud. Just give a few minutes, guys. Stax will be here at any moment, I'm sure. Actually, as a matter of fact, I'll be right back. It took me a minute to catch the reference when you said Kaki Toast. You're talking about Kakistos. Folks, if you don't, you should watch Vampire Slayer. It's a classic. One of the finest TV shows in the history of the silver screen. Now, Angel, its sequel, its spinoff, in my opinion, is better. But Buffy is the more iconic show. Classic. Sarah Michelle Gellar, just chef's kiss. Great actress. Oh, Stax. Stax is like, oh, I'm working. I gotta drive home. Loser. Such a punk. Ooh, you know what we can do? In the meantime, we can troll people on Twitter. Hey, look at this. Who's this person right here? Oh my gosh, it's Elle. Yo, I'm obviously not saying recent SCOTUS decisions are good, and I'm just frustrated and scared as anyone, but to look at what's happening and think POTUS and Congress don't matter is some dumb touch BS. Like, bro, who do you think appoints SCOTUS judges? Well said, Ella Yerman, well-known comedian and Buffy enthusiast. Yeah, so this reminds me of that great thing, that really iconic stupid tweet from Brianna Joy Gray. She was an ex-Bernie campaigner, incredibly frustrating, but she would say things like, she gave this tweet back in 2016 that people who were warning the left, like, hey, you should come out, you should turn up for wait a minute 2 minutes ago, Stax, yeah, and we can blame the issue of not having the vote Scalia's replacement under Obama to nab Garland instead of Gorsuch or McConnell's made-up rule about nominating justices in the fourth year, but at the end of the day, Hillary getting elected would have prevented this. Absolutely true. My only frustration is It's 8:10, and Stax sent this at 8:06, and Stax is not here. So, what the hell, man? What the hell? Absolutely. Nevercroft says, Angel peaked with Muppets. Smile time. One of the greatest episodes in the history of things with episodes. Quote. But yeah, so getting back to Brianna Joy Gray, she would say things, or she said this like in response to people who I feel like I'm whatever. She would say things in response to people who are like, hey, to turn out for Hillary Clinton because the next president will be able to, probably fill like 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 Supreme Court vacancies. And Brianna Joy Gray ironically said, hey, people like you are overstating the significance of Supreme Court appointments. And she was dead wrong. Like the wrongest tweet in the history of wrong tweets. Elon Musk tweets. I'm just kidding. I don't think she's ever said anything that bad, but obviously demonic and stupid and insensitive because we're seeing the negative consequences of Hillary Clinton's defeat and the fact that Hillary Clinton wasn't in office to appoint Supreme Court judge. And actually, it's interesting because when I was yelling at people on Twitter today, as I am wont to do, because love bullying people on the right gently on Twitter, just gently and kindly. Where, if I can just get to my profile, I can show this. So I try to make this point. Where is it? Okay. So, and this is actually in reference to a conversation I had with Luke Beasley last night after we did a show. And, President Biden said, I did a video about this. Is one of the things as we speak. It's going to take forever, though. Jack says he's jumping on. So we'll see him in 30 minutes, I'm sure. President Biden said on MSNBC, he was like, listen, I don't like the direction this court's going in. I think it will harm potentially, but I think something like court packing, then we risk politicizing it forever. And I thought that was just a sweet summer child, naive thing to say from a politician so seasoned, given that the Supreme Court is and has been politicized. And so I made this tweet where I'm like, had a spirited chat with a collaborator last night about this tire minimum. I wish POTUS didn't publicly commit to this. SCOTUS has been politicized, and their only incentive to behave is the threat of interference from other branches or non-acquiescence. I'm going to let Stax jump in here for a minute.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, listen, I don't even know where to begin with you. Here you are.
What?
Here you are, wildly tardy, but still finding the time to comment on Ella's tweets. And by the way, Ella was like, listen, I wish he would stop harassing me on Twitter and be more devoted to this enterprise with you. And I said, Ella, I quite frankly, I completely agree, but he's wildly irresponsible.
I definitely said I was going to be like 10 minutes late, and I'm.
I agree. You said that
late?
10. I agree. You said that 10 minutes before the show started, but that's okay. No, let me finish this, and then we'll jump into some of the stuff.
Yeah.
But it is actually about the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
So what I was saying was, we've been talking in addition to stuff about Buffy. We were also about notions like good faith, and chat was jumping in, and obviously you and I plan to discuss the Supreme Court stuff. Mm-hmm. And I mentioned that we were just talking about. Damn it! What was the predicate for this? Something about. Oh! When I was trolling through Twitter, I saw your exchange and Ella's comments about blaming the president and Congress and stuff like that, or saying that the president and Congress don't matter. And you mentioned something about, Hillary Clinton not winning the election is the direct predicate.
Is the only
situation which we
you could find other ways that this couldn't have happened, right? Like if you include both RBG retiring under Obama and also Obama being able to fill Scalia's replacement, it probably would have gone 5-4.
Yeah.
But like, also, if Hillary just would have been president,
right.
that
That's
would have just
probably
fixed this whole issue.
that's the
And
single
that's
nexus point. Yeah, I think
yeah,
that I agree.
yeah. There are ways that you can spin it where it's like, oh, technically, if Hillary didn't get president, we might have been able to find this work. Maybe these few things. But at the end of the day, this is just elections matter, and who gets elected president matters, and there will always be these consequences that stretch far beyond their presidency. Obviously, Donald Trump hasn't been president in 3 years, and yet we're still seeing major decisions being made because of those.
I don't know what you mean. Like, you make a compelling case, but then I also hear, like, Brianna Joy Gray has assured me.
Yeah, that's true. That it doesn't matter. You don't have to vote for Biden, and there will be no issue.
Hey, did I make you proud for once criticizing the left? How did that make you feel when you saw me?
I know you were just boiling on the inside. When you saw that shit, you're like,
yeah. Oh, dude,
no,
like I almost had like a rage-induced aneurysm. I was like, really? Really? Are we really doing this?
It's so, I mean, like, because here's the thing. Jill Stein voters are on the left. That's a criticism of the left. Yeah, no, I think.
Do you know any Jill Stein voter?
Not off the top of my head.
Not off the top of your head.
Them and risk losing a friendship. That would be.
But to be honest with you, do you even value that particular friendship all that much? Just let's be honest here.
Not even a little bit. Yeah. No, not even a little bit.
Well, so real quick, let me just pull up the tweet again.
Yeah, so there was quite a few Supreme Court justices Supreme Court decisions that happened pretty recently. We had.
Yeah, well, let me get through this. Let me finish that thought that we were having, and then we'll be productive. Yeah, exactly. Okay. You should be. You're over here. You're 45 minutes late. Then you jump in. You try to take over. Real quick. Pop says,
Ella's in chat.
Yeah, she's here for me, and she's gonna leave. She's like, listen, I'll hang out with you until Stax gets here, and then I am piecing out.
Fair enough. By the way, you sent me the wrong. Sorry, you sent me the wrong link again. I'm not streaming to YouTube because I can't, because you keep fucking that up. Just so you know.
That's the only link that's available to me before the show starts. Maybe if you would be on time.
I don't know what to tell you.
Wait. Mm-hmm. Did we try getting you to log out and then you pop back in with the new link? Do that real quick.
You want me to leave and then
close out of this, and I'll send you.
Yeah, send me the link. Cool.
Okay. Finally, peace and effing quiet, for the love of God. Send him a link to all my feet pic. So to be fair to Biden, I think a major issue for him is he has to worry about re-election. And if he committed to expanding the court, did it work?
No, it didn't work.
Okay. Well, so I say this with love, but maybe if you would be here on time and stop doing whatever, wildly inappropriate stuff outside.
Home as quickly as I possibly humanly can.
I don't believe that at all. Listen, we both know you had nothing going on that would keep you from being here on time. You say quote unquote work, but I don't think the strip club opens this. Get it?
Nice.
Because the joke is Stax is a male stripper. But anyway.
Nice.
So we were addressing the thingy here, and it says, to be fair to Biden, I think a major issue for him is he has to worry about re-election. And if he committed to expanding the Supreme Court, Republicans would be using it to attack him nonstop. And then he said,
"Yeah,
wait a minute."
Okay.
Then he said, we're gonna let people complete thoughts around.
I didn't know there was. I'm sorry.
That and knowing how little the average American understands politics, they'd probably agree with the Republicans attacking him. Go ahead, Stax.
No, I think that is kind of a real big problem with just sort of the way the country works. Is like one of the biggest one of the fairest analysis of like the debt raising was Republicans were so willing to bite that bullet and just like let it drop. And Biden acknowledges, he said this straight up. He said, "Look, if the debt ceiling drops, everyone knows that's going to blame on me. If we have like one of the biggest economic disasters of modern history, we know who they blame. They will always blame the president, even though this is so obviously squarely on the Republicans in Congress who are unwilling to raise the debt ceiling. So there is this unfortunate game of,
Yeah, I
that we're-
agree. It's Pop, to Stax's point, I gotta say, it's really damn aggravating when people hold Democrats to higher standards. It's really frustrating when people are like, "Oh my God, we're the left, so we need to be like, oh, perfect, and then the right can just do whatever they want."
Is that
And
your impression of me?
I see. It's interesting that you just assumed that that's you. Why on earth? Why on earth would you assume? See, that's, ladies and gentlemen, and gender fluid, that's right there. That's the hallmark of a guilty conscience.
That is
That's the
true.
sound of a man who knows that what I'm saying is stinging. It's like, damn, I feel like that's pointed. I feel like
For
that.
some reason.
Yeah, exactly. You monster. But so what's interesting is, I do agree that generally speaking, okay, well, actually, no, I think that nine times out of 10, yeah, I think that, the president is a proxy for, the national temperature, good or bad. And quite
Yeah.
frankly, it can work to our advantage
But-
at times because, like, no, I'm
sorry.
talking now. I'm talking now.
I apologize. I'm sorry. I thought we were having a conversation a little back.
No,
and forth,
what we're having is
little
we're
cute
exchanging
little-
monologues. You had yours, and it was really
Okay.
insightful and beautiful. And now I have to compete, and so like
Sure.
you're not gonna upstage me here,
Sure,
Stax.
sure.
Okay,
I'm so sorry. I apologize.
it's okay. Wait a minute. Hey, wait.
No, it's fine.
Wow, no, it's okay. Fine. Okay, there it is. But anyway, so it's kind of like when it comes to the economy. Like, if we're being honest, the president has very little direct authority, good or bad, over the economy.
No,
right?
they've got a little lever that says increase gas prices, and they go
Right. Well, you're right. I apologize. You're right. And that
other than the
lever-
gas prices,
Right.
They have gas prices, and that alone.
Exactly. And actually, it's not even
economy.
it's interesting. Like, they've got the lever,
And then
but like
inflation on the left side.
apparently Trump couldn't pull, like, Trump pulled the lever to keep gas prices low,
Mhm.
but apparently not so low that it was basically like 99 cents. Like, the lever only goes so far apparently. And then Biden, when he got the lever, just maliciously, he was like, let's crank it up to, $70 a gallon or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like,
That's
so
not
it's
even an
interesting.
exaggeration. It was $70. It was crazy.
Basically, and that was in the cheaper states. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the president is obviously probably the single most influential person on the planet, and I won't sit here and say that they have no impact on the economy. Like, the president, if the president, Republican or Democrat, says the wrong thing at the wrong time, the stock market will crash. Like, that's like
Did you see that? Did you see
Go
that
ahead.
tweet where Biden was like, I demand all gas owners lower the prices, and then like you actually saw a little bit of a dip?
Yeah.
It was actually
Oh, did that actually happen? Are you messing with me? Or?
Low key, no, it was a little bit of a dip. Like, it actually, he didn't say like raise he was saying, hey, corporate greed has caused a lot of these gas prices to increase. So I'm exhorting the I don't know, the gas companies to lower your prices, and you actually saw a little bit of a dip.
I did not know.
Now that dip
hilarious.
is probably not causal, but in our little brains it can be.
Right.
We get to write our own reality.
Post hoc ergo propter hoc.
Exact. That's not what that means at all.
Yes, it is.
No,
yes, it is. The idea.
God
No,
damn
we
it.
listen.
We've been over this.
No, we haven't. Listen to me. The idea is that the president does a thing, and then something happens after it. And if you assume a causal relationship, that is post hoc ergo propter hoc. 100%. You are
okay. That is true. That is true.
That-
Sorry, you're right. You're right.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Okay. Now
I think
listen,
the first
do me a
time you
favor.
used it, you said it incorrectly, and now you said it correctly.
Think so.
And now
I don't think
like,
so at all.
I was just resorting to like you being wrong because that's just the default in my head.
Stop it. This is what I'm saying here right now. Hang on. Okay. This is what I mean. You are just okay. So
True.
see, you were so thirsty to bully me and to correct
true.
me.
Here, let me bring this up. I wonder if you have any insights on this. I wonder.
Mhm.
Yeah, stop big business gouging prices. Yes, it was some tweet like that. I don't know if that was the exact tweet, but it was something like that. I could find it if I cared.
Okay.
but I don't. So I'm wondering if you have insight on why you think Biden's popularity or approval rating is so low, considering how well the economy's doing. Like, because you did make a point that like people blame the president for how well the economy is doing, for good or poor, and it feels so weird. It feels so, and I don't know how exactly to explain this, and it might just be demagoguery on Fox News or
I think
whatever.
it's I
That
think
like,
it's a I think it's a combination of a couple of things. So number
mm,
one, obviously inflation, we're making some headway on it. There's no doubt, but inflation is still relatively high. I
sure.
mean, we see it every time I see it every time I DoorDash a thing. I see it every time I go to the grocery store. And as we talked
What's that
about,
now? Like
say
5?
what?
What's it at right now?
I thought it was like 6% or something like that. I could be
Six
wrong.
percent. Okay,
Yeah, you can fact check me while I'm giving you my brilliant
I will.
insights. Factor, right? So where the economy is still struggling, it's struggling in a very direct way, not in like an abstract way, not even like in a way like 401k is being depleted, right? Because this inflation is not an out of sight, out of mind sort of thing. We
For
see
sure.
evidence of inflation every day, gas prices, grocery prices, whatever. So it's in your face. So the few areas in which the economy is still struggling under President Biden are unfortunately the things that are right in America's face every damn day. That's one factor.
True, because
Sec-
unemployment. Oh, sorry.
no, go
Well,
ahead.
unemployment is so low, as you know. It's at
Very.
like, I think. Don't quote me on this, but I
I'm
do
going to.
believe I saw a stat that unemployment rate has been at a low and steady enough, like
For the
basically
70
for the first
years.
time in like
Yep.
70 years. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Yep. Under
Yeah. So
4% for the longest duration in 70 years, right?
yeah.
But after you get a job, you just like, so like if you're a person, so like
So
so if you're a person who's unemployed and you benefit from the unemployment rate because you are now employed again, I think
right.
after a while the luster loses itself, right? You just now have a job again,
True.
right? So
Well,
so
that's the problem with like the difference between unemployment and inflation is like unemployment. In order to be aware of that, you have to know people. Like you have to have some sort of idea of like how many
sure.
people you know and how many people are unemployed, or just look at a graph. But inflation, you're gonna see in front of your face, as you said,
Every time.
a multitude of times. If you know, yeah,
100%.
and people, I think generally people are really bad at understanding what those percentages are. So if they have 5 friends and 4 of them are unemployed, they just go, "Oh, the unemployment rate must be at 80%."
Right.
But inflation, yeah. So it's, or all of their friends are employed, so they go, unemployment's always. I don't know.
You
It's
know what's
really hard
funny
for people to
is
tout that.
as very intelligent as you are, and I love that analysis.
Uh-huh.
Hearing you describe like the theory of it, like
It's weird, huh?
I read about this. So if you have five friends, people who I just love
Friends. Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I listen. You're doing really well with that. I'm proud of you.
That's why I nailed this stats of it, because that's what I could really focus in on, is
Right.
the math
The
part of
numbers
it.
are my friends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
80%. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anytime it
No,
comes to emotional
that's just
intelligence, I fail.
that's the second reason. I think another thing too is the first thing that you mentioned, which is I do think I'm convinced that I mean, like they say, perception's reality. So I'm convinced that gaslighting the American people matters so much more than the facts because like
Yeah,
Republicans have polled better on the economy
it's
for
so.
decades and decades and decades. It's nothing new, even though the data has contradicted it for decades and decades and decades. And Democrats
Yeah,
very much have this facts speak for themselves mentality. Like if you improve the economy, people will know it because they'll feel it. And in the abstract, that makes perfect sense, right? Like, but not really. Like in the end of the day, if a
you would.
persistent person tells you this is bad, 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 it will permeate through
Yeah, I mean,
a group.
well, I think people are just really bad at understanding how percentages work. Like, because they generally go off of my experiences matter more than the percentages. Like, I have like it's weird because I follow a lot of like conservative people and a lot of like really far left people on Twitter, just to like sort of see sometimes like the dynamic between them. And oftentimes conservatives will post so much, like so many videos of just like, here it's just like, oh, here's a robbery. I'm like, why am I seeing this? Why the hell do I give a shit? And it's like massive conservative figures, and it's just minority groups every single time, just committing all of these crimes. And I do think that there is this concerted effort to show people minorities committing crimes, and then you get that in your head, and then you have
even though
someone
it's an
Trump saying,
anecdote.
yeah, of course, even though it's anecdotal, I don't think people perceive it as such. I mean, that's why it's a logical fallacy, right? It's because people fall into these traps all the time. And then when Donald Trump goes, oh, gotcha, immigrants commit more crimes, we're going to go ahead and we're going to open up this whole branch just to study this. And then they study it. And it's like, oh, actually, no, they actually commit way less crimes than citizens.
Yeah.
Or sorry, illegal immigrants commit less crimes than citizens.
Fewer. Yeah.
Fewer.
Yeah.
Fair. No,
sorry,
you were right.
That was
I hate it because you were right. Yeah. It's like, oh, I didn't even like. Yeah, okay. Anyway.
No, so I think that's the third factor, is the fact that they have a very slick, sophisticated, turnkey operation in mainstream media and social media, which tells them that the Republican Party, like, don't believe your lying eyes, the Republican Party is better for the economy than Democrats. And then on the flip side, you have a fractal, scattered Democratic operation in terms of its message discipline, in terms of its general message discipline, that really doesn't emphasize that. As a matter of fact, like and it's funny, these people are, they're obviously professionals, they know what they're doing, but like even the guys at Pod Save America, who I think are they're progressive, but they're more on the liberal side of progressive than anything else. Like even they kind of scoff at the notion of bragging about your accomplishments. And these are seasoned political operatives. They work for President Obama. Dan Pfeiffer was his communication director.
Screenwriters, or sorry, they were
speechwriters. Yeah.
Sorry.
And so, I mean, obviously they know what they're talking about, but it sounds so counterintuitive. Like, why do you disdain the idea of bragging about your accomplishments? Like, I don't get that. And until somebody proves to me that that's a bad idea, I think we got to do it. Now, that's not to say that you don't still express sympathy for the hardships that are still like your spirit. I feel like you've got to thread multiple needles. You got to say, hey, we've done this, this, and this, and these are facts. And it doesn't matter what the Republican Party tells you and Fox News tells you. Here we are. Here we got the numbers, yada, yada. And we also know that inflation is still too high, even though we've made progress on it, and blah, blah, blah. And by the way, Republicans would make it worse for this reason. And then talk about what you want to do aspirationally. I think you've got to do all three of those things.
We do need to acknowledge that we're on the back foot for one huge reason, which is something that I notice a lot whenever I make videos on TikTok, which is anytime that I'm talking about something really beneficial that happened and not like scary or worrisome, you see views plummet. And I think that that's just a product of being human, that you respond really positively. I don't know if positive is like you respond more emotively to things that freak you out. And I think that if you have that, like the screaming from like Daily Wire or something like that, the trans people are trying to take your kids, and then they just sort of lessen that hold on you a little bit when Trump's in office, you go, oh, things are great now. I don't hear that screaming all the time. And
well, I was going to say, like, I think that I mean, obviously the Republicans are really great at weaponizing fear, and we see the results. And that's another reason why, and again, I was having this conversation with Luke last night, I do think that unless I'm proven wrong, and I'll accept it if I'm proven wrong, but until then, damn it, we got to try it. Diversity of tactics. I think that there's a market on the left and in the Democratic Party for harnessing negative emotions, be it fear, anger, righteous anger, anything else, and even bullying. So like, I look at the success of people like, it's so funny when people talk about like the intolerant left, and we've talked about this before. I think we even talked about it with Ella, how a lot of people find Cody Johnston of Some More News smug, and it drives me nuts.
We can say it. It's fucking Destiny. He's so ridiculous.
Well, it's not just Destiny. No, that's the thing. Actually, I was not thinking of Destiny. Funny enough, I mean, he called.
I talked to him about it, and he said that. Oh no, he said John Oliver was really smug.
Yes, he gets that too. Yeah, but Jon Stewart gets it. Stephen Colbert got it. But what's funny is I actually wasn't thinking of Destiny. I was thinking about other people like that don't stream, that I've heard that before, who are nominally on the left. They'll say things like, I can't watch Some More News because he just comes off as intolerably smug. But even though they don't share the opinions of people like Ben Shapiro, they don't find Ben Shapiro. It's this weird, again, I'm telling you, it's an asymmetry of expectation where I think we have been trained that if you're on the left, you have to be like this Jesus Christ, turn the other cheek, humility and just gentility. And meanwhile, the left can just be complete douchebag. And actually, I think that there's a market for that on the left. I think that that the arrogant, abrasive, kind of bullying approach, like what they call the dirtbag left, I think that that does have an appeal. I would argue that that's part of the reason that Destiny and Vosh and others, like the more combative side of the left, have been so successful. And so I just, again, until somebody proves to me otherwise, and I'm open to it, I think that we need to have people basically go up and like chest bump people on the right all the time, like, metaphorically speaking. Carrie points out people really got behind Dark Brandon. That's a great example.
Yeah.
I think the vast majority of President Biden's constituency want him to manifest that Dark Brandon persona much more often. We prefer Dark Brandon to the very gentle whispery.
You saw he mentioned the meme, right? During the correspondence dinner.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And he threw the aviators on and everything. Yeah.
So
and he ripped off his suit jacket and like showed off his 8-pack, his 80-year-old 8-pack and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Let's catch up on some comments here real quick. So do you want to weigh in on the people do you want to say anything before I move on to the others?
Let's see here. I mean, we'll just read through these. We won't be able to expand the court till we get more Dems in office, and if we need the Senate to pass it, we need to rid us of the filibuster right now. Not enough in Senate to do that. Stop big business gouging prices. Yeah. Those are two separate comments. Sorry. Yeah, I think Josiah and I have definitely talked about the utility of the filibuster. Like sometimes it is very much a force of good, as well as bad, as we can obviously see. So that is. I don't know if I have much else to say outside of that.
Yeah, I'll reiterate. I do not want to get rid of the filibuster. I want to just simply carve it out more. Filibuster is a tool, and I've said this before. Tools can be put to good practical utility, or they can be abused. Democrats use the filibuster effectively as a way to stymie the Trump administration and Republicans multiple times. And if that table, we wouldn't have been able to do that. Perhaps the Trump administration, for all its stupidity and corruption, would have been more successful than it was. So I do not want to wholesale get rid of the filibuster, number one. Number two, what I do want is for Democrats to, like people like Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, to join the rest of us in the real world and accept that because it's a tool, it's okay to use it selectively and to put it down when we don't need it and to pick it up when we do need it. And so to carve shit out more, like for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, grant federal protections for voting rights and stop GOP voter suppression. Yeah. Screw supermajority. Who cares? We need to do what we need to win. So yeah, to your point, expanding the court, that would require either a supermajority or enough Democrats to break the filibuster, which we currently don't have. That's very much true. And so I think that if President Biden, which he won't do it, I mean, maybe he'll do it, but he certainly won't do it now. And I don't think he wants to do it. But
he said it multiple times that I think he made very public statements very recently.
He said it last night.
He will not.
He said it last night on MSNBC. Yes. Yeah, but what I'm saying is and this is where I tweeted this earlier. I don't have. I mean, I would hesitate to make bets on how this will play out because on the one hand, these recent Supreme Court rulings are really going to further piss off millennials and Gen Z, and Republicans are hemorrhaging those voters anyway. So that doesn't spell that doesn't bode well for the Republican Party and their future. On the one hand, so that's good. On the other hand, I could see where this might depress voter turnout because again, it goes back to I genuinely feel that Democrats have to tell voters what they've done. Like, if you voted for President Biden in or Joe Biden, then candidate Joe Biden in 2020, and like this is how I would think about it. If I were less of a Biden stand and if I were less political and if I had student debt, I might be thinking to myself, okay, I voted for you in 2020. What did that vote get me? Because I do think there's a level of self-interest in people. And if you just say, well, this is what I want to do in 2024, I'd be like, cool, that's great. But what did you do?
But we gave you 4 years.
Yeah. Right. What did you do? And so I think I really believe it must be both. I'll die on this hill. And so I think in addition to saying, okay, here's what I've done, I think Biden, what?
It's got to be both. I'm confused what you mean by it's got to be both.
You got to brag about what you've done and then give aspirations for what you want to do.
Oh, totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. Yeah, sorry.
And I think that I I was kind of putting myself in a position where I'm thinking, if it's me, I could see an AU alternate timeline Josiah
Mhm.
not turning out to vote unless Biden promised me, like, listen, if you expand my majorities in the Senate, I will grind the Republican Party to dust and I'll pack that fucking court to 70 justices. If like,
Uh-huh.
unless he basically came to me as Dark Brandon, I'd almost be like, I could see an alternate timeline Josiah going, nah, screw you. Like, you've gotta give me some. You gotta say, hey, listen, I gave you this shiny thing. No, I wasn't able to deliver this or this, but I did do this for you. And if you reelect me, and if you like, there is a transactional element. And so I am sympathetic with progressives there. Like, that's why, like, even on
Even
the
Jill
Supreme,
Stein voters.
even Jill Stein voters, like, but like, no, yes, honestly, yes, because
Yeah,
obviously at the end of the day, harm reduction should be like, if push comes to shove,
it
you
is a
got to go with
tool.
harm reduction. But like,
But there is because I can see a case where there would be two such extremely bad options that I think legitimately voting for a third option might be like a legit, like I can see if you're worked in that perspective in such a way. I mean, I'm biased obviously because I've grown to really appreciate so many of Biden's policies, and I look back on Hillary's policies and I go, wait, why did I think that she was so, like, she was a villain,
sure,
like she was so corrupt. And I
yeah,
think that if you actually have that, if that actually is the case, I think I had my facts wrong, and that's why I went back on it. But if I did, like, going back to 2016 me, when I was just a completely different personality politically wise, where I thought both parties were basically just corrupt and negative and terrible or whatever. I don't know if I saw much of a difference between the two. And I don't know. I don't know why I'm going off down this route, but I guess what I'm saying is, we can definitely construe elections where harm reduction makes, or where harm
no,
reduction
harm reduction
just
is
validates the system.
well. So at the end of the day, I think that if you're if you are a morally responsible actor, I think,
Mhm.
and you're behaving rationally, and that's the key part, rationally, which we don't always do because we're all human, and we're emotionally driven, and we're balls of, stress, and, neurochemicals and hormones and everything. Then I think, then still at the end of the day, if you're going to vote, you would harm reduction. If nothing else, you should vote for the lesser of two evils because there's
Sure.
utility in that. But my
Even if
point
it's like
is,
Hitler and a fascist, like, you still got to choose the
right,
fascist because it's
exactly.
not Hitler.
So like, but at the end of the day, I just think you're setting yourself up for failure, because knowing that people are emotional and have genuine frustration. I mean, I was feeling today like I actually had a migraine from it, because especially when I went back and watched the clip from President Biden, yeah, and you see my channel, I am a Biden simp, I'm a Biden stan, unapologetically. But there are times where I'm like, just, oh, why did you have to say, you know, I don't think that the court's going in the right direction, but I think if we start to expand it, then we'll politicize the court forever. The court is politicized, Mr. President. You know it is. It's been politicized arguably since its inception. The only difference is the mask is coming off. The Supreme Court is appointed by a political actor, the president, and confirmed by political actors, the Senate. It is inherently political. The difference is, once upon a time, we used to pretend it was at least one further step removed because there were lifetime appointments. They didn't have to worry about campaigning or reelection. But let's just be honest about what it is. And that gets me back to the tweet that I was talking about earlier when you jumped in 45 minutes late, is that I was like, okay, imagine a counterfactual when because people, again, the idea is if we court pack, it'll further politicize it. So imagine a counterfactual where you had a Republican president in 2016 and a Democratic majority, and basically just flip the situation for the last 7 years, Democrats and Republicans. So imagine that now we have a 6-3 liberal majority because Democrats played games with Republicans like Republicans did with them. Do you think that Mitch McConnell would hesitate to pack the court if we did to him in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020 what he did to us, the answer is no. He would not hesitate to pack the court. And he would come up with well, historically speaking, we've had one justice per circuit, and right now we've got 13 circuits, but only 9 justices. And in light of the fact that my Democratic colleagues abuse norms to pack the court in their favor, I don't see any reason why my Republican colleagues and I shouldn't further rebalance the court. That's what would happen.
No,
and
of course.
Anyone who thinks otherwise, you should just stop doing politics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just watch some C-SPAN.
100%.
Just be educated.
Yeah. So let's see some other people. Nevercroft says, think the low approval rating is a perfect storm of his milquetoast start, inflation, and the fact that he's not a super charismatic demagogue. It's fair.
That is, yeah. That is, it doesn't bode well for a democracy. Like, it doesn't feel great. It doesn't feel great those are the markers of approval ratings of a head of state. Yeah. It just doesn't feel good. Just doesn't feel good to see that. I think you're right, and I think it's upsetting to see.
RJE, Trump actually asked both Russia and Saudi Arabia to cut production of crude oil in order to protect the Yes. So when the gas price situation was going on, it was some of the first TikTok videos I made before I left the platform was about that. Like, Trump set the stage for this in so many stupid ways. Oil was getting so cheap that he deliberately got OPEC and others to cut supply so as to increase the profits of various oil producers, because once you reduce the supply and demand continues, of course, the price, it becomes more expensive. That was in 2018. Then the pandemic hits in late 2019. And of course, all that takes time, right? You don't instantly cut production and supply evaporates, right? And then that sets the stage for catastrophe. And so, yeah, it's
just the tale of the Republican Party of just like constantly, where your entire, Jon Stewart has made a lot of comments on this. So I'm kind of just regurgitating what he said on this, but basically Republicans have this ethos, this mentality that government doesn't work. So they can essentially just set the garbage on fire and point to it and said, see, look, we were right.
Yeah, he's right. Like, now reelect me. Like,
yeah,
wait, what?
Exactly.
Yeah, like, dude, and being a Republican in politics,
it's so
like,
easy,
dude. I know, like,
it's so easy.
It's like
just
playing a game on easy.
Just say no to everything.
It's playing a game on easy with like the cheat codes enabled, like unlimited health, unlimited money. Like, it is just awesome. Like, good for you, man. Like, meanwhile, we get nothing. We just get so nothing.
Yeah, just look at Mitch McConnell's entire job. It's just saying no for, I don't know how long he was speaker, like 8 years, I want to say.
Senate majority leader. I can't remember how many times, like,
non-speaker.
I don't know. People are just bad at reading to find, well, and that's the thing, like, how do I say this? I mean, again, facts don't speak for themselves. And I'll say this. I will say this. President Biden's administration social media game has gotten way better.
Yeah.
Like,
I do agree with this.
Leveraging young influencers and like the person running the White House Twitter account, like, is being much sassier and direct. Like, I love that, man. Like, get with the times. He
also pushed a lot of like TikTok creators and stuff to meet with him, and like they did.
What's funny is I literally led with that. I literally led with that when I was like how he's leveraging young influencers and stuff. You didn't even listen to a word I said.
Well,
that's the thing.
Wait, what do you mean? Wait, no. I guess what I'm saying is like he had Dylan Mulvaney before. Like, there was all of that when she was just sort of like this big content creator on TikTok.
Ooh, President Biden met with Dylan Mulvaney too.
Yeah, fuck you. God damn it.
No, you're right.
No, before the Bud Light sponsorship and before Matt Walsh decided to spend his entire waking hours of every moment of his day harassing a single trans person because she's a Bud Light sponsor. Oh my God.
You know, and honestly, I've never liked Bud Light, but I've never been more motivated in my life to drink it, like with cereal and everything else. Just like,
I
like, yeah, yeah, just like out
I
of
love
spite.
I love that, like, the party of like private companies doing whatever the fuck they want and you voting with your dollar or whatever, and
Asterisk.
then a
Yeah,
private company goes, "Oh wait, actually, we should start marketing to all these people who generally don't drink beer." And now that we look at the numbers, most of our audience, most of our consumers are actually libertarians who don't give a shit about trans people. These conservative Christians aren't drinking that much beer anyway. Why not we market towards these people? And like the party who's always for this shit, for some weird reason, as soon as
yeah,
they disagree with it, their moral, their ethics, their ethos, whatever you want to say, all of their integrity just gets thrown out the window. It's just surprising. That's all. And I mean
yeah.
surprising in a way that I mean not surprising.
So let's see again. We got to catch up with the comments. So, well, wait a minute. Lisa Lopez says when President Biden called out Tommy Tuberville, that was
The
great.
senator,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So that was great when he did it live because he was more blunt and more sarcastic. The Twitter thing, I guess I appreciate some sort of clapback where he's like, see you at the groundbreaking. That definitely needs to be something. I never want to hear Democrats ever shut up about that. Anytime somebody even looks in the direction of a piece of legislation that they opposed, I want somebody from the Democratic side to be like, what were you looking at there? Or were you looking at that thing you voted against?
Yeah,
Okay.
seriously.
And just constantly rub it in their faces like, hey, Democrats are such a responsible governing party, and we care about your own damn state that we're obviously going to dispense the funds to help them out. But we just want to point it out that you voted against this, and any good that comes from this is entirely because of the left and Democrats and President
Yeah.
Biden. And in spite of your failure as a human being and political agent, and you should hate yourself because we definitely do. Let's see. Cinema. Kirsten Cinema will be gone. Ruben will win. I think Ruben Gallego or something like that. I think Gahayo. He's running for.
Is there a
He's yeah.
huh?
I think he's a member of the House of Representatives, if I remember correctly, and he's running against Cinema. He plans to run against Cinema in 2024. Yes, get her
Gotcha.
the hell out.
Especially
Manchin, we will never replace, but Kirsten Cinema, like,
100. I was
yeah.
just about to say this.
Oh
Yeah,
my
when in
gosh.
Arizona, yeah, I'll just repeat what you're saying because that's all I'm doing right now. It's just a little, um, Raven just mimicking everything you're saying. Anyway, no, Cinema Arizona is absolutely someone we can elect a more progressive candidate for. West Virginia, we're not going to get a better option than Manchin. Unfortunately, that is the only Democrat that the West Virginia populace is ever going to vote for. We have to kind of admit
I
that.
think if we had a candidate called Mountain Mama, we could West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home. Okay, I'm sorry.
Country
Go ahead.
Road, yeah.
Country roads.
There you go. At least finish it.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, look, Manchin is absolutely not is not the most progressive candidate or
You
even
don't
by a
say.
mile.
Wait.
Yeah.
You don't
No,
say.
but we do have to accept that we either have to change how West Virginians vote or change their opinions or accept that Manchin is going to be a part of it. Cinema, we can absolutely oust. We have the voting.
Yeah, it's a purple state.
100%. 100%. It's competitive. We can absolutely get a progressive in there.
Miles' voice said, and somebody else said this earlier. I feel bad. Where Alex Yusupov. I think we need to add the Supreme Court making it to 13. And then Miles' voice said basically the same thing. SCOTUS should be expanded to 13 or 15 justices. Again, to be very clear, generally speaking, there was a justice which corresponded to a circuit because originally the conception was the Supreme Court would actually have administrative roles over individual circuits. And now, obviously, it's really not the case anymore. But you could definitely cite that historical precedent. And now that the number of circuits have outpaced the number of Supreme Court justices, I think it'd be perfectly rational to introduce legislation, be like, hey, country's bigger, more states added, more circuits, and we need to update the times because I think it's been set to, I think legally speaking, the Supreme Court's been capped to like 9 justices since like Ulysses S. Grant or somebody like that, Lincoln or Grant. Yeah. So,
wow. Are you
yeah.
sure? I could have sworn there was more justices on the Supreme Court back in the early 1900s, but I could be wrong. This is not my
No,
area of
no, no,
expertise.
no. Now, President Roosevelt threatened to pack the court to
Oh,
13
I
or
see,
15
but it
justices,
never
but it never
occurred.
happened.
Yeah.
No.
Gotcha. Okay, fair enough.
Carrie says, why did SCOTUS even take the wedding designer case? Wasn't it just the same as the cake case from the two from years ago? I don't know if you heard about that, but like, so it's a web designer.
No, yeah, I heard about it.
Yeah.
It was it was the same exact thing from the case. Or sorry, I skimmed it. I skimmed an article on it, and
Yeah.
everything that I saw, it seemed like the exact same case from the wedding cake from what was that 2008? I want to say where they refused to bake a
Bake a
wedding
cake.
cake for two gay people.
Yeah.
And now it feels like the same. I don't know what's going on. If you have
My
an answer to that
understanding is
question.
too. Well, my understanding is too that there's some credible evidence that it. I don't want to misrepresent, but it's basically like it wasn't even an actual scenario. It was almost like a hypothetical.
Really?
Like nobody asked the designer to make them a website for a gay wedding. And
No
so, like,
way.
yeah, I'm telling. While we're talking about that, look that up because I want to. I
So it definitely was a specific web designer. Let me look up.
Oh no, I know it's a specific web designer, but I don't know if anyone actually asked that person to make them a gay website.
You are so correct. Damn, you spitting. Yeah, she challenged the state's public accommodations law, claiming that by requiring her to serve everyone equally, the state was unconstitutionally enlisting her and creating a message she opposes. Yeah, so it was really just about a law that she said this could hypothetically make me what a fucking stupid ass.
I'm saying, dude, this is what
At
I mean.
least the
Like,
wedding cake thing was like at least that
at least
was
it
an
actually
actual gay
happened.
couple that came in.
At least it actually happened, right? I
Yeah.
mean, like, whatever you feel about the decision, obviously, as progressives, we just, but it's like, what? But anyway, and my understanding is the result of the case is that the web designer cannot refuse gay clients because that would be illegal discrimination. But if the website that they wanted her to make was about like a gay wedding or something like that, then they could refuse it. But let's see. Again, we're their comments are outpacing us, and I want to get to that video.
To answer your question, do you know why this was taken, even though it was? I mean, this was basically already.
I legitimately, okay, I don't know if this is the case, but
Mhm.
my tongue-in-cheek response is, I think one morning those conservative justices woke up and like, we need a case to pick on homosexuals. Somebody got something. Somebody got something. Somebody got. Oh, you do. Thank God you got something. I think it was probably like that.
I mean,
And
like legit. That's kind of what happened with abortion. They were like, "Hey, now that we have the numbers, let's just take one of these cases."
yeah.
You know, like let's overturn some shit now that we have the
Sorry,
numbers.
we're an hour in and we've got like 7 more comments to address, and I really want to watch this video, so we have to move much quicker. So Miles' voice said it would just let the justices hear more cases each term and return the court to the historical standard of having one justice oversee each circuit. The idea has growing support in Congress. Yep, love it. Any issues with that, Stax?
Nope, not at all.
Good. Carrie says lifetime appointment probably sounded a whole lot better when people opted not to live past 40.
So true.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. Back when a splinter would be the end of you. Lisa Lopez says, just want the Dems to work together during the election season so they're all together in their messaging. Yep. Message discipline. And we haven't seen Cinema in Arizona for almost a year, except for her meeting with Big Dude. Sidebar on this. I will spend just a minute on this. Let me know what you think. I've thought about, should it be a requirement? And obviously we'd have to get the language exact. But basically, 2 things I would love to find a legal way to force into the representation of every single state. Number 1, if you are elected as a member of Party A, you cannot switch to Party B after you've been elected. Otherwise, you're automatically kicked out and there's a new election, like what Trisha Cotham did here in North Carolina. That is disgusting and wildly. And again, I understand you'd have to write it in a way to be, to be legally sound, but the principle being you can't campaign as one thing, get elected as one thing, and then screw your constituents over by doing the exact opposite. You just can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, the legal wording is going to be a little difficult.
Right.
Obviously, politicians go back on campaign promises constantly.
Correct.
So, like, Yeah,
Yeah,
totally agree
that's
on
what
that.
I mean. But at least the principle should try to be
Like at
enforced. You
least be
agree?
in the party that's like vaguely in favor of these
Right.
things. Like at least you kind
Right.
of like you might not know. Oh, they're going to be they're not going to do these promises necessarily, but at least they're going to be in the party that I'm going to know that the basic
Right.
ideas
And
of what
even
they
that they're
stand
not
for.
obligated to vote with the party in total lockstep. I'm not saying that there
Yeah,
can't be diversity or dissent, but this idea, like Trisha Cotham ran as a progressive pro-choice Republican or Democrat in North Carolina, got elected on that, and then 2 months later switched to a pro-life Republican.
yeah,
That's disgusting. Like that
totally.
is that what however it's written, that should be automatically you're kicked out. And if you want
Yeah,
to run again as a pro-life Republican, by
feel
all
free.
means, but
Yeah, go for it.
you can't just
But
defraud
that's
your
not how you. Yeah,
constituents.
100%,
Yeah.
100%.
Let's see. And the other thing is the other thing I was going to say, and again, the wording would have to be right. You can't do what Kirsten Sinema, you should not be able to do what Kirsten Sinema does since you're supposed to represent your constituency.
Which is
You
disappear from the state.
correct. You
Yeah,
have to, there should be mandatory, like once a quarter town
you
halls
have to
where
go out
you
of
have
town.
to,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah.
you agree with that? Like that,
Yeah,
should
I
that not
like
be,
it.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I think, I mean, if you're a representative over your constituents should be able to see your representation. I totally agree with that.
Right.
I
And
think,
even if you, because obviously, again, it's a republic, right? So if your constituency says, hey, we wanted you to do X, you did Y, you should be able to say, well, listen, I have the power to do that, but you should have to look them in the eye.
yeah,
And,
100% defend that decision.
yeah.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. Or like even maybe not in law, but at least have that as such a standard that,
Well,
because
it would
it's
have,
obviously going to be hard to.
yeah, it would have to, well, that is like the norm, right? And that's
That is true.
norms are so good. No, they need to be ruthlessly enforced if they're going to exist. Yeah, it needs to have some
Facts.
sort of threat behind it. Let's see. Another comment. Not sure POTUS has the power to expand SCOTUS. In the past, it's been yes, they would. There right now, there is a law capping. I'm 80,000% sure the number of justices at 9. So when we say the president would have to expand the court, he would have to use his political authority to direct his party to change legislation. Then he would have to sign it into law.
Yeah.
Miles Voice said by the start of the Civil War, the number of Supreme Court justices had increased to 9 in order to cover additional circuit courts. Okay, there you go. Kudos to you, sir.
Sweet.
It's a bit off topic, Pop says, but have any of you guys read the worrying intel Ukrainians have been releasing that Russia might blow up that nuclear power plant? I have not.
I have not. I haven't heard anything about that. That sounds
Yeah,
a little terrifying.
that does a little bit.
Just a smidge.
Well, while you're looking at it, I'm going to move on.
Yeah.
Justices still have oversight of one or more circuits. Okay, they do. Okay, I did not know that they were still like administratively involved with the circuits. And then we're caught up. I think SCOTUS will go after businesses for diversity next. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know what they'll go after next. I think again they meet in some sort of like I don't know underground lair. The conservative ones do, and they wear it's like an eyes
Just
wide
the flag
shut sort of
yourself up.
like yeah. So who knows? Okay, you just Googled something. What were you Googling?
No, I was just looking at the Russia nuclear plant. I definitely don't have enough information to really make a comment yet. But I mean, the situation's always developing there. Not to make a nothing statement, but I don't want to comment on something that I'm just like vaguely reading an article about.
I don't blame you. Okay, so folks, for the rest of this, I wanted to watch about a 20-minute thing here with Stax and kind of unpack it. So, and the way we have to watch this, unfortunately, Stax will hear with an echo, so I don't want to pull it up just yet until we're ready to start playing. But there is this centristy right-wing duo, Konstantin Kalimnik, or no, that's actually that's way off. That was the Russian guy. That was the guy involved with the Russiagate stuff. But his name is Konstantin. I think he is from Russia or Eastern Europe, and a guy from England. And they're like these right-leaning moderates, and they have a really successful podcast called Trigonometry. And like they've interviewed Sam Harris and Destiny and David Pakman and whatever. And right now, in the clip we're about to play, they interview, I think the guy's like a chef or something like that, but he's also become like a.
I think isn't he a writer for like the Daily Beast and a couple of conservative?
Well, I know he definitely is obviously involved in politics, but I could have swore that he was a chef too. Maybe I'm making that up. I have no idea. Look it up. His name is Andrew Sullivan.
Yeah.
But so his Andrew Sullivan, who is a centrist kind of vaguely, he always pitches himself as a classical liberal, which is generally code for right winger, but he's most famous most recently for being on that panel on The Problem with Jon Stewart, and it went viral, where they were discussing like affirmative action and racial policies. He was the white, bald British guy. So anyway, he was interviewed by Trigonometry, and they apparently spent quite a bit of time discussing the 2024 election, because he is a U.S. citizen legally now. He lives in the United States, even though he's from England. So he was talking about the 2024 election, the state of political discourse here. And from what little I've heard, a lot of it was centristy nonsense. And so I want to get angry and rant about it. And I want to do it with Stax. Were you going to say something before I share the...
His political blog was called The Daily Dish, so I think that's why he thought he was a chef. But I don't think...
Was he not? Is that the only reason why?
I think so. I don't know why he thought he was a chef, but I'm looking at his Wikipedia right now. It doesn't say anything about being a chef, but I do see that his blog is called The Daily Dish.
Oh,
so I think you saw that and you're like, oh, a chef. Oh, okay. I don't know.
That's the only person who can have a dish is a chef. Okay. All right. I'm going to start playing. Let's go. Let me know if you can hear this.
Isn't the problem, Andrew, that hard left, hard right are ideologues? They conform.
I'm going to turn it to 1.25 speed.
Yeah.
To an ideology. And the problem is with an ideology is it creates a rigidity of thought. So you can't say yes, but, because the moment you do that, then you are questioning your ideology, which means you're going to be expelled from the tribe.
And the reason you shouldn't do that is because you are first and foremost a member of the society, not a member of your tribe. And you have an obligation as a democratic citizen to compromise. And our entire system of government is set up, designed for compromise, especially in America, where the power is dispersed massively. Now, some of that you can see at work now. You can see federalism happening. You can see some states, blue states, in which kids are going to be told, going to be handed dildos at the age of 2 or something. I mean, I'm joking. But in which, here's my main issue with the education of children. And then you're going to have states where poor trans kids have no capacity to find anyone who can help them. And that worries me a great deal too. And I'm also not, I'll be honest with you, I don't want to ban all of it, because I think in some cases, there are some outlying cases in which, if conducted within a clinical trial, these experimental treatments in hormones and in puberty blockers can be legitimately defended in a few cases. So again, I don't want to make that an absolute.
So real quick, let me take this down so you can comment. And again, I don't want to spend 40 minutes on a 5 minute, because that's what we're inclined to do. I just want to say very briefly some quick observations. I'll turn it over to you, and then we'll go back to playing it. Number one, affirmative trans care, like the puberty blockers and stuff like that, all of that has been affirmed by the American Psychiatric Association, the American Pediatric Association, the American Medical Association, medical authorities that are infinitely more relevant and experiential and with expertise that Andrew Sullivan lacks. So I love this idea that, under these certain circumstances, like, every now and then,
It's so telling that he's saying, only under clinical trials because we should investigate this, without acknowledging that it has been investigated and deemed safe and productive and is extremely beneficial towards kids. And he just keeps saying, we just need to investigate. We need to investigate it. But if we focus so much on the investigation, for some reason, he seems to not be acknowledging the results, which are pretty conclusive.
The other thing I'll just point out, federalism and separation of powers, which talked, and it's funny because I mentioned this recently in a conversation with Destiny and Pisco. All of those things are brilliant on paper, no question about it. Love the idea. But they have created in the United States, and perhaps it's inevitable, but they've certainly created in the United States in practice a right-wing advantage, because in order for progressives to affect change, you have to have power. And if power is dispersed, it favors the status quo. So just pointing that out, people are like, well, separation of powers and federalism, this creates a neutral landscape. Not in the United States. That gives conservatives an advantage. Is there anything else you want to say about what he said so far before we move on?
No, I agree with, go ahead.
Thing too. So Biden's thing of no blanket ban, but you figure it out in the localities in a pragmatic way, should work in a liberal democracy. Whether it can or not will reveal the extent to which we have the semblance of that left. I find myself in a weird position because obviously I have sympathies in both camps. I'm very strongly conflicted about this on many issues, like on the issues of religious freedom. As both a believing Catholic and a gay person, I have to weigh those things up. But I, as a citizen who is neither Catholic nor gay, but as an American citizen, I favor a compromise. I favor not forcing someone against their conscience to do something they don't want to do. I'm in favor of encouraging gay people to find someone else to bake a cake or run a wedding, because if you can't find a gay florist, you I don't know where you are. It's
You're
not
in
hard.
Alabama.
You don't have to go to another state. It's every small town has one. Anyway, at
No,
least
I was going to say there is a philosophical argument to be made that all florists are gay, but
I think that's an outrageous assumption. Yes, but I would say.
yes, but I listen to what you're saying, Andrew, and I agree with it. And I think partly is because you're right, and I think, but there's a more crucial part to it, which is we grew up when there was no social media, when we weren't incentivized to be in these tribes, when we weren't incentivized to all think the same.
I'm going to skip ahead because I don't think I wanted to cover anything in the social media part because I want to get to the 2024 presidential stuff. So you mind if I do that? Cool.
And the alternative to liberal democracy is a permanent political war, a sort of permanent cold civil war. And we have been doing that on and off now for quite a while in the country. And it's not like this divide has not manifested itself throughout American history. It has. But it's just a very tough time in which we don't seem to have many people capable of negotiating a sane center.
And why is that? Because I completely agree with you. And for the last however many elections, I look at the candidates which have been presented to us by both left and right and go, is this really the best America has to offer? 320 million people, and we get Biden or Trump.
Next time as well. That's the amazing thing. Next time as well. I mean, it's going to be Weekend at Bernie's up against, this crazy, malevolent mobster person, and both in their 80s. But
that's the thing that bothers me about it. It's like Joe Biden, who's president right now, he whatever you think about Trump, it's a bit different because he's still with it, right? But Biden isn't even in his own prime. You couldn't even get a guy who is at his own best to run the country.
No, in fact, someone who really should be retired. I mean, but don't think Trump is. I mean, Trump gives you you should look at a tape of Trump from 20 years ago and look at it now.
So a couple things.
What an amazing pivot. I have to say, what an amazing pivot. At least he's effective in his mobster mentality. At least you can understand his words when he speaks. I don't understand that sort of pivot where it's like, oh, I would rather have let's say, let's just say for the sake of argument that Biden
let's say you got to do the Ben Shapiro thing. Let's say
that Biden is just a puppet and he just sort of sits in his chair and he doesn't do anything. And let's ignore all of the policies that he's enacted. I will take a do nothing president over fucking Trump, who is a legitimate career criminal, any day. And I don't understand anyone who wouldn't take that deal immediately.
Yeah,
we can ignore all the benefits, and we'll just say, let's just say Biden is just he just sits in his chair and doesn't do anything. I don't get it.
So this is one of these things that so the guy on the guy in the middle, that's the Constantine guy. I think he's the more famous of the two because I've seen him on Bill Maher and I think he spoke at Oxford and other things as well. I did a video about him on his Bill Maher appearance, got a lot of flack from his fans. And the reality is this: the reason I pick on the guy is because, and he does it because I've seen a bit more of this, where he will tacitly but persistently basically play the devil's advocate for Trump, except he does it every damn time, no matter who he's talking to. So that to me, it's like, are you really playing the devil's advocate, or are you just a Trump sympathizer? But even the premise, and this is where I actually got to give Andrew Sullivan credit too, because I'm one of the very few I know of that makes this point, which is when people talk about Trump being with it. If we're talking about a degradation of cognitive function, yes, I think you can easily make a compelling case about President Biden. If you compare him to 2012, when he was up against Paul Ryan, there's clearly a slowness that's associated with certain people over a certain age. Yeah. But actually, you see it with Trump too. Go back and watch an interview with Trump in 1998 on Larry King, or in 2004 with Oprah Winfrey. His vocabulary has shrunk dramatically. It's all buzzwords. Bigly, believe me, all these stock phrases, because his verbal sophistication is a third of what it used to be. He's more facile, more vapid, all the things. And I love that Andrew Sullivan actually points it out. Dude, set aside the fact that one is inherently malevolent and the other is not. You can pick on Biden all you want about, his decline, but Trump has actually declined too. And I love how he points that, because he's the only other person that I know who's made that observation. Go back and watch an interview with Trump, and he's slower, and
Yeah.
his vocabulary is smaller. But I also love, before we move on, the guy on the guy in the glasses on the end there, when he's talking about, he's like 300 million people, and the best you can do is Biden or Trump. Like these two are equivalent. Like you and I didn't back Biden in the primary, but really, like,
Yeah, for
there's
sure.
still an asymmetry there in terms, yes, of competence and also moral character.
100% agree.
Yeah. Shall we continue?
Let's go ahead. Nice going.
Oh, it might actually help if I put the video back up.
Yeah, if you knew what you were doing, that'd be kind of helpful.
That's true. Shut up.
Joe Biden, who's president, his own prime. You couldn't even get.
But don't think Trump is. I mean, Trump gives you you should look at a tape of Trump from 20 years ago and look at it now. He's also clinically unwell, quite clearly a delusional maniac. I mean, the sheer vehemence with which he consistently, even now, asserts that the 2020 election was a landslide victory for him. This is someone who, if we were saying something equivalent in our private life, we would get that person into a mental hospital. That's how crazy this man is. That's delusional. And he believes it because his psyche won't allow him to believe anything else. He's still saying this, Constantine. At what point do you say this person, and he could...
You're not a fan?
I think he's a dangerous, evil maniac, yes. And my task number one is preventing him returning. If that makes me have to vote for a left-wing Democrat, I will.
You're on the right. You're going to vote for a left-winger over Trump?
Yes.
And you're going to...
If that's the option. Look, I support...
So, real quick, obviously you know how happy that makes me. Like,
I mean, 100%. But it is legitimately alarming. Like, I definitely disagree with this guy, this Andrew Sullivan on the right-hand side, for quite a few of issues. But, like, yeah, it is alarming. Of course, I mean, everyone on the left has been saying this as well. It's alarming when you have a head of state perpetuating fears of institutions that don't agree with you.
Right. I mean, yeah, and promising to take all kinds of executive and legislative action should he get reelected. I mean, it's insane. Like, he's proposed policies like right now, you know, when any president takes office, they basically have at will hiring and firing power over like 4,000 appointees. The vast majority of the federal bureaucracy, the president can technically fire, but it's usually like with cause, right? Donald Trump wants to make every federal employee an at-will employee. So, like, if an epidemiologist working for the NIH disagrees with him, or like this random military person,
just get carted off,
just like instantly, like, you're out of here.
I mean, we saw that's not even speculation. We saw that with his administration. How many times did he have like so many different members of his cabinet just constantly leaving and entering? And some of that is because of quitting. To be fair, because some people,
but no, I know you're right that it's not speculation. No, because he has flat out said that he even has like a proposal, an executive order. He had it drafted. He just never pulled the trigger on it because it was done right at the end of his presidency to make, because you have schedule classes of employees. It would create Schedule F employees and make basically every federal employee that isn't covered by the previous schedules an at-will employee, like just stuff like that. So I just love the fact that. And you can tell that these guys, we haven't even gotten into it yet, but these guys, when he's like, yeah, I'm a right winger, center right winger, whatever, and I will, if that means I have to vote for a left wing Democrat to keep Donald Trump out of office, I will happily do it. And you can tell, like, just what?
Yeah.
So what has he done?
Hillary.
Look, I'm open to.
I voted Hillary.
I'm open to your argument.
You can't have a lunatic running the Western world.
But he did get elected, and I understand that he's very provocative and he says things that aren't true, and that annoys me. What has he done that makes you think he's an evil lunatic? I think those are the words.
This equivocation just drives me absolutely up the wall. I mean, like, to reduce, like, look, Andrew was speaking some very fair points about, you know, the erosion of democracy, the erosion of trust in institutions, and to deflect that as like, oh yeah, he's provocative. I mean, like, sure. That's
one word for it.
That it is technically true that Trump is provocative.
You know, that Stalin guy was kind of provocative.
Yeah, exactly.
That Mussolini guy, I mean, he got a little carried away.
Yeah, he was a little provocative. It's the most, like, it's so telling of their egregious biases that they won't be able to stand behind, because they want to maintain this front that they're like, oh no, we're Republican with values, we have morals, we have consistencies, and we can play this sort of moderate crowd, but they're constantly not being able to. They have to stand behind someone who obviously their morals can't allow, so they have to play this sort of like neutral middle ground that, I don't know. It's so disgusting to me watching this unfold.
I feel like it's about to get worse. We're gonna find out.
Word you used.
I think attempting to prevent the actual, I mean, this is something some of us said before he got elected in the first place, that he will never concede defeat. And therefore will create a constitutional crisis because his psyche does not allow him to lose wherever reality says. The fact that he refused, that he is currently engaged in an assault on American democracy, currently engaged in it, still spreading the lie, still mandating others spread the lie, and was clearly complicit in an attempt to prevent the peaceful passage. That person should be in jail.
Can I? Do you mind if I?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Or exiled. Where you see Napoleon.
Like Napoleon.
Somewhere else. But the other amazing thing is that 30% of the country would follow him to the gates of hell, and 45% would put him back in the White House.
This episode is brought to you.
All right, hang on. We're gonna skip ahead. But before I play, anything you want to say about that?
No, I mean, it's nothing that we haven't said all the time, which is just that this is just a cultish. It's just a cult, really, at this point. That first, Trump did something to the Republican psyche to turn these brains in a cult. It's no longer about politics. This is a personality trait. This is who I am. This is my identity. Is a Trump supporter, and that man.
You know what's funny though? So Sullivan is a U.S. citizen. The other two are not. They obviously they commentate on American politics, but they're still residents of England. They live in England, yeah. And so that's the other funny thing. That to me is part of the conservative thought leader brain rot here. It's barely understandable enough, but I can at least understand how a U.S. citizen who's a member of the Republican Party can get ensnared in this cult, but these guys live across an ocean and they're still playing the devil's advocate, bending over backwards in a way that they would never do for Biden or Obama. If you switch the names out and it was Biden or Obama that tried to stage a coup,
of course,
it would be.
Of course,
yeah,
it's I mean, the amount of time. I mean, you just look at the indictments that occurred over Trump, and if you had anything, even a fraction of as damning as what happened to Trump to Biden, it's so laughable. It's so laughable that Democrats would obviously go, oh, that seems bad, we should probably try replacing that. And Republicans would go, oh my God, it's the fucking Antichrist.
Right. Which they did when Obama wore a tan suit. So.
I know. Yep.
Yeah.
I was very troubled by what happened on January 6th, and I said so at the time, even though what happened wasn't an insurrection in my opinion, but I was troubled by what happened and the way that it happened. What I'm curious about, though, is I think it's fair to say, look, I always try to put myself in the shoes of the people I'm talking about, and Donald Trump was called every name under the sun. And I remember this was a complete shock to me.
Are you honestly saying we should worry that Trump's been called names?
No, I'm going to get to... No, that's not what I'm saying at all. Just give me a second to lay the argument out. In 2018, my wife and I watched one of the Die Hard movies. And this is at the peak of, Trump is evil, fascist, Nazi, whatever. And there's a scene in that movie, I think I may have talked about it on the show before, where because of something that happens, they have to run the switchboard for the entire city through one woman in an office somewhere. And her supervisor comes in. He's a white guy. She's a black woman. This is a black woman. And he says to her, you're going to have to run the switchboard for the entire city. And she says, if you think I'm going to do that, you think I'm going to marry Donald Trump. Prior to him running for president, this guy was an aspirational figure in this country. Is that fair to say? Am I being unreasonable?
For some deluded people, yes.
No, there were a lot of men who wanted to be him and a lot of women who wanted to marry him or sleep with him or whatever it would have been, right? He runs for president, he's treated as a joke. He gets elected. He gets called a Nazi. Now, I'm from a Jewish background. Donald Trump is not a Nazi. His daughter married a Jewish guy who he gave a big role in government and converted to Judaism. He gets whatever, you may like him, dislike him, whatever, but he has been misrepresented from day one. Now, I agree with you. He's a complete narcissist and a malignant one in terms of the way that he behaves.
It's just so fucking like, you know what? I'll agree. Trump isn't a Nazi. Okay, he's not trying to kill Jewish people. Okay, I agree with you. That's the bar.
Right.
That's the bar.
And I agree. I agree. He's a narcissist and a malignant one at that. But like he even listen. He's not a Nazi. I agree with you. He's a malignant narcissist, and but
names.
yeah. So yeah, he did. Like, what are you gonna do? Yeah, I try to put myself in the other person's shoes. Stacks.
Yeah.
So I try to put myself in the shoes. Like, imagine that I am a wildly rich, I'm a New York real estate billionaire and a pop culture icon. And I decide to run for president, and people say like all mean things about me. And then I get elected president and go from a billionaire pop culture icon to the most powerful man in the world. What am I supposed to do? Okay, as a malignant narcissist, New York coastal billionaire who is now the most powerful person in the world. Like, what do you expect from it? Like, so stupid. And by the way, I love how he slid it in there too when he was like, he gave his son-in-law a big role in government. Like, actually, think
like
that's a plus.
Encouraging of nepotism. Yeah. Like, oh, but he's Jewish.
Right.
Have you considered?
Right. Like,
oh, gotcha.
Like, bro.
My bad. I'm so sorry. No, no, I just, oh, damn it. I had hold on. I had a fleeting thought. It just escaped me. Continue for just a bit.
Continue with the video?
Yeah, fuck. I don't know.
Think about it.
But I'm thinking about me. I get shit in the media, social media every day now.
Okay, sorry. I just want to say this real quick. There is a reason why these British people don't understand this. Okay? There is nothing more goddamn American than making fun of your fucking head of state, okay? And they don't get it because they worship their fucking queen or whatever the hell they have going on over there, where it's like you can't tell if it's a parliament or a monarchy anymore. But oh my God, there is nothing more beautiful about being an American than pointing to the most powerful person in the world and saying, that guy's fucking stupid. There is nothing more beautifully American than that. Where if you want to call your head of state Winnie the Pooh, they don't ban it from your country. Okay, you gotta have your freedom of speech, and they don't get it. Okay, like us Americans do. And if you want to make fun of Biden, call him. Yeah, I don't know.
I was just gonna do like the "Hail to the Chief" or whatever in the background. Yeah, that was a beautiful patriotic speech.
Thank you. Yeah. Coming this 4th of July.
Every interview we do. If I was being misrepresented at that level, how would that affect how I behaved?
Well, if you also said you wanted to shoot protesters dead, that you believed in...
That sounds like something I would say, to be honest.
When you have the authority of the President of the United States...
It's different. I agree, of course.
When you delegitimize the entire system of what you were elected and vow that such a thing will be, when you actually attempt to seize voting machines, to rig them, when you ask a governor to just invent votes to get you into office, when you support war crimes openly, when you say you want to bomb other countries like Mexico without the declaration of war, when you say you want to steal oil from... I mean, it can go on and on and on.
But Stacks, he was called names. I mean, like they called him names, Stacks.
He's just
I hear you.
Yeah, but he's he was beloved. He was beloved for the majority of his life, and then when he got 80 years old, he said, "I want to be in charge of nuclear weapons." And then someone said, "That seems like a pretty stupid thing." And then he goes, "What did you say? You call me stupid?" And then that justifies every insane action that he took afterward.
Right.
I live in the real world just like you do. That 100%. Seems like a normal ass, totally justified response.
Yeah, it's just like the only response to this that is acceptable is for the Constantine guy to go, you know what? Yeah, you're right. That was really
so
stupid.
Slimy.
The thing I said was really stupid. You know what? If you are that weak when it comes to name calling,
seriously, we don't expect the same from like people who have a couple hundreds of thousands of followers on social media or something. Like people get called names. I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
Buckle up.
Right.
You're the commander in chief of the free world. I swear to God.
I can't wait to hear what he has to say about this.
This man's public positions are so extreme. They're Duterte level. He wants to execute drug dealers without trials. I mean, he's right out there right now saying these things. You can read what he writes up on his Truth Social, and it is not distinguishable from someone in a mental hospital. And he is also belligerent, malevolent, and capable of doing things to other people that are fundamentally cruel and enjoy it. Such a person has no place in a democratic society. And he was always this way, by the way. And you say he's misrepresented. If you so much as misplace a comma, he will be offended. He is the most incredibly thin-skinned person imaginable.
We can agree on that.
But what's happened, and I get what you're feeling, because people feel this way as well, is that the way he was completely dismissed, maligned, and not only that, but his voters, more importantly, the voters who supported him were treated this way. They feel like you or like I do. I'm called a Nazi all the time. I'm a white supremacist. I'm a homophobe. I get up every morning thinking of what harm I can do to some poor trans child. That's how I'm. Now, it's very easy emotionally to then retreat into.
I can't hear anymore.
You can't?
No, I cannot. I can hear you though. I think the issue's on.
No, it might be me. Hang on 1 second.
Okay.
Tribe to say, well, whatever you're saying about that, blah, blah, blah. I get it emotionally. And I think people in the country feel that emotionally. And if they're pushed to make some emotional choice, are you with them or with us? They will say with us again. But at the same time, I don't think most of them, if given an opportunity to vote for someone who was sane, who represented some of Trump's positions, I think many of them would be quite happy to do so. They just don't want to be put on the spot. And they don't want to be harangued by the left media. And they are right when they're told they're being propagandized in many ways and condescended to in many ways. So all of that I understand. I do, because I feel it myself. And I've been vilified and lies, just complete lies about you, in order purely to diminish your credibility, your legitimacy. Because, as I said, they only believe in power. They don't believe in truth. They don't believe in rebutting you, because that's not what they believe in. They believe in destroying you. And the zeal with which the far left actually enjoys taking on individual human beings, a succession of Emmanuel Goldsteins to vilify and hate, is really chilling. Really chilling.
And this is why I bring up this point, because
So before we go on to Constantine's remarks, was there anything about what Andrew said? I thought it was off to a great start in terms of, this person has no business in public life or public leadership. Where he lost me, of course, was there at the end trying to say, well, and I get it,
I hate the left too. Don't worry.
Right. Yeah. I really hate the left. The left are bullies.
And we can, you know what they are. I've been bullied on the internet by a bunch of left leaning people. I've been bullied on the internet for a bunch of right leaning people. Yeah, there's some bullies. There are some bullies, and it is a problem. And I do try to push back on it when I can. But there is a difference between random fucking people on the internet and the head of state for the Western world, for the free world. There's just a little bit of a difference between those two. That's my personal opinion.
I don't know if that has any political substance. I'm not entirely sure that there's much degree of separation from a Twitter rando and the president of the United States. But yeah, that's the funny thing. Well, the left bullies people online. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're talking about the biggest bully of them all, Donald Trump, who is backed by a party full of bullies who also wield state powers to varying degree.
And I don't justify that bullying. I do try to stop that when I can, especially when it happens in my own little community. But oh my God, let's have a tiny bit of perspective for half of a second.
Right.
It's alarming. It's alarming. I'm not trying to just excuse the bullying that happens on the left, but
no, exactly. But this is the thing I complain about the most, when people just have no sense of scale at all. A Twitter rando being a dick on Twitter, who happens to be on the left, is treated with the same sense of scandal as when Donald Trump is bullying people on Twitter. And it's guys, you've lost the plot. You really have. Power and responsibility scale. And as sad as it can be to be bullied by random people on Twitter. And I'm not trying to make light of that, because I also think that social media has made it worse, especially when there's anonymity, right? Separating you from your words. So you're even more inclined to be a dick because there's no consequences to it, no social stigma associated with it. But still a random person who has very little direct impact on you. Whereas when Donald Trump bullies people, he's bullying people as, yes, a real estate billionaire, pop culture icon, head of the Republican Party, and at the time, the president of the United States and potentially future president of the United States.
Yeah.
It's wildly different in scale. But let's see what Constantine has to say.
My worry is that in that sort of media environment where, look, the moment you've got the Artie next to your name, you become an Artie if you're running for president. That is what they do. Some people would argue, I'm not saying I agree with them necessarily, but some people would argue the reason Donald Trump was successful is he doubled down instead of cowing and cowering.
He wasn't successful though, Constantine.
He did get elected.
That's so weird, because he said that people who run for Republican Party just get called Nazis. Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Mitt Romney's been accused of being a Nazi. I don't really know if I've heard that. Or Chris Christie. Or
No, listen, I mean, I'm sure you can find, again,
sure,
anybody on Twitter, who are like Nazi,
but like
Nazi.
it's not just that he ran for president as a Republican. It's not just let's use a little bit of our critical thinking skills for just a half of a second.
He's a conservative, so he doesn't have them. That's
true.
The problem. It's
that
hard.
Is true.
It's hard
I
to
apologize.
use. It's hard to use that which you don't have.
It was pretty ableist of me to assume, and I
agreed.
Apologize. Yeah.
He got elected
and cowering.
He wasn't successful though, Constantine.
He did get elected.
He got elected with with a minority of the popular vote. He squeaked in. I mean, he was legitimately elected. Lost every single election ever since. His own party consistently losing. The people he nominated and championed last time around losing. This is not actually. We could have a third loss coming up in 2024. Now, if however, social media, the culture, the Democrats, whoever want to turn this into whose side are you on, then it could get quite close. And it's perfectly possible he could be reelected. My nightmare scenario is Biden keeps Kamala, which is one of his biggest mistakes. And sort of there's a moment in like the fall campaign where Biden completely loses his train of thought in public or has a heart attack or something, because, this happens. It's not completely unknown. And it becomes Trump-Kamala and we have a Trump landslide. And then where are we? And then watch the cities go up. I mean, we are on the edge of violence here if we're not careful.
This is a question actually that I wanted to ask you, because there's a lot of people who talk about the potential for civil war in this country, and there's a lot of people online, and we know those type of people, who make a lot of money out of it, and they sensationalize it, and they always talk about it, and it's scratching that very unpleasant itch. How close do you think we are to things going really awry in this country?
You're not going to have the Confederacy and the Union forces marching together and finding a battlefield in the middle of Virginia to fight it out. That's not going to happen. The truth is also this idea that there is a very clear divide between red and blue states. Is most red states have some very blue cities in them. It's going to be more, I think, a political paralysis and dysfunction in the states as the counties, and an attempt by the Republicans also to kind of rig the system even more to their favor in some of these big central states, so that they can get legislative majorities that are out of proportion to their actual, gerrymandering, But that means that you can't have a whole bunch of states against a whole bunch of other states. It's too muddled up. There are lots of red staters in blue states, more than you would think. You're sitting in the one place where that's not true, which is D.C. But almost any big state will have a variety. Just go to Virginia, go down a few lines, you'll see Trump signs and so on and so forth. So I don't think that can happen. But what you can have is political paralysis and then incipient terrorist outrages, mass shootings designed to foment even further hatred of the other. You see, like in a trans issue, you could have some incident. I mean, we kind of almost did with the shooting, the school shooting. We don't know quite what that person's motivations were, and they've kept the manifesto out. But when you're creating these levels of divide and hatred, mutual hatred, this country has a lot of guns. There's a lot of mayhem that can happen. It would be more like that. You have to remember also, first remembering the 70s, there were bombs going off every other day in this country. There were riots everywhere. It's not like this is completely unprecedented. The 60s and 70s, late 60s, early 70s were unprecedented in terms of political violence.
So that's basically concludes the part that I wanted to watch, and I would definitely unpack the rest. I guess my first observation would be, again, it just so it intrigues me how, Andrew Sullivan, I'll give him credit, said quite a bit of appreciable things, like the fact that he will vote for a leftist Democrat in his over Trump any day, and that the most important thing is to keep Trump out of office, and the Trump isn't successful, and that Trump is also demonstrably cognitively declined, and all the things. But then again, right there at the very end, when he's like talking about the potential for violence, and he says we almost had that with that one trans shooting, referring of course to the thing in Nashville, right? And I'm thinking, cool, dude, okay, all right. So now he threw in there, he's like, listen, we don't know what the manifestos was, or the what the person's
Do you know how many?
motivation was.
Do you know how many?
Exactly.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's it. No,
Like,
keep
do you know
going.
do you know how many? There was a Buffalo shooting
Yep.
that where a white person wrote onto their rifle. Don't quote me. It's been. I think this is a year and a half ago, so it's been or maybe it's even longer. But they basically said something about it was something about the 14 words, I think, was on the rifle, and they specifically targeted a black supermarket with the explicit purpose of trying to stop the white replacement from occurring, which of course is the white supremacist conspiracy theory that there are minorities who are just going to claim take over whites essentially. And it is insane the amount of cherry picking that happens when, and I've made a video about this where I basically did an analysis of per capita, how many trans shooters have there been? And there have been 4 over the last 4 years. 4 over the last 4 years. That seems like a lot. America has a lot of shooters. There's a lot of shootings, and per capita, trans people are 10 times more trans people are 10 times less likely to be a shooter than they should be relative to their population. They're essentially 10 times less violent.
They're underrepresented in
correct.
Yes, as perpetrators of violence. Yes.
On an order of magnitude. And that is like essentially, instead of stopping and going, oh, wow, we have so many shootings in America that we're having them from every demographic for any sort of political reasoning, that they're happening so often, and yet still, obviously, white people and white supremacists are still being overrepresented.
That right there, or even if you're going to refine your remarks or keep your remarks purely to politically motivated shootings, why on earth would you mention this one? Which, number one, we don't know that there was a political motivation behind it, and number two, it's outnumbered, even if we grant you that, 10, 12, 20, 30, 40 to 1 about conservative politically motivated shootings. So that's my beef, where this is good. This to me is such a great case study of why I have an issue with the enlightened centrist, because I think Andrew Sullivan does pitch himself as a centrist, and yet one thing on the left equals 40 things on the right. And it's because these people operate that there's some sort of moral cosmic law which dictates that if two parties are in conflict, two people, two literal political parties, or two countries, they must be equally bad. Even if we have a litany of examples on one side and only 1 or 2 on the other side, it makes us feel good to think that, okay, they just must be comparably or equally bad. It's just not true.
Totally. And I think that obviously those 1 or 2 things are awful. And I've talked about Audrey Hill, and I've gone pretty extensive on how we've sometimes used language on the left to sort of almost cultivate a little bit of fear or violence on our side. And I am worried and conscious about that. And I do speak up on that when that happened. I was on a Wix panel talking about that issue. But I want to make it clear that these are not comparable. I want to talk about this issue and say this is a minor issue that I want to focus on for a little bit, but there is a huge scale. There is a universe behind us while I'm focusing on an atom. And it's just, I don't know. It's scale. I don't know what else to say other than that.
No, and again, that's why I think that we've all got to do our part in keeping perspective and triaging accordingly. Like I said, that this is the ongoing tension between me and most other people with whom I interact. It's not that I don't think, and again, we'll never find that perfect line. So we'll just always have to test each other's boundaries. But I think too often, certainly the right, obviously the middle, and even some more middle adjacent parts of the left will be like again, I'm just imagining a scenario where I'm being wheeled into the ER, and I've got a piece of rebar sticking out of my chest, and somebody points out, "What about that splinter there?" It's like, dude, focus, focus. Yeah, anything, any criticism of the left that doesn't begin and end with the right is objectively worse is just factually wrong. It's just wrong. It's the same thing as if we were discussing criminals and we're like, yeah, these two are criminals. They're both really bad. And then you look at it and it's like, oh, one is like, I don't know, a shoplifter and the other one is an axe murderer. Like, if that's where your analysis ends and you can't find meaningful distinctions,
and
you
then
suck. You suck, and you should probably
it
shut up.
Feels like when I'm criticizing the axe murderer turns around and goes, "Oh, so you think shoplifting's okay now?" And it's like,
yes,
huh?
true,
Huh?
true.
What are we talking about right now?
True, 100%.
Not to freak out, but like it just makes me a little bit lose my mind. It's I'm not. Can we talk about the people that you killed, please?
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen that a lot lately. Like when I've been yelling at people on Twitter for the last couple of days, like I've just come to the thing that anytime somebody wants to talk about Hunter Biden with me, I will devote one sentence to it, and then I'm going to hit you with Ivanka and Jared. I'm just going to bury you under Ivanka and Jared, Ivanka and Jared, Ivanka and Jared, Ivanka and Jared.
They had political positions.
They did.
They were in the White House. Donald Trump said about Jared Kushner, he has both. Sorry, he is the primary focus for both foreign and domestic affairs.
Yeah,
which is just to clarify the entirety of your affairs. No, it's not comparable. Okay, yeah, the criticisms of Hunter Biden, please. Yeah, sure. I'm so grateful that he's not in the White House and that I'm not electing him to be our president.
Right. Well, dude, I don't know if you saw that, but there was a YouGov Economist poll. These are two highly reputable, highly credible sources. Yeah. They did a poll about the favorability of federally indicted figures. One was Donald Trump, former president, potential future president, leader of the Republican Party. The other one was George Santos, current Republican freshman who's lied about everything.
Yep.
Hunter Biden.
Yeah. It's like...
And you want to know what the results are? Santos was the least favorable, 11% favorability.
That's insane.
No, that's great. That's great.
Oh, go ahead.
No, because actually, you're right. It should be Trump, then Santos. But Santos is the least favorable at 11%. Hunter Biden, now, and again, he's a sitting Republican congressman.
Yeah, who lied to his constituents.
Yes, 80%
about
of them.
Every facet of his
life.
Credentials. 100%.
Hunter Biden was second least favorable at 14% favorability. And Donald Trump was the most favorable at 43%.
It's just, I don't get it.
No,
I don't get it.
And that's what I'm saying. We've got to do our part to make sure painfully that we do not contribute to this in any way. And that's why, again, like our mutual friend, no. He's never had a position in government.
Not even like a
Nope. He's never been a White House intern, White House page, White House usher, White House janitor. No. And that's why, like, when our mutual friend Counterpoints commented on Twitter, he made this meme. I don't know if you saw it.
I did.
But then I responded with, like, cool. And so then, Trump appointed U.S. attorney, a Trump appointed judge has to approve for charges that are very rarely brought. And let's talk about all the shit that Ivanka and Jared have done. Like, I'm just going to, every fucking time, I've just committed to it. Let's debate about Hunter Biden. Cool. Here's the debate on my part. Hunter Biden's a private citizen, deserves the same level of scrutiny that a private citizen deserves, not for federal level investigations. And you know what? If he's found guilty of a crime, he should be charged. He should be convicted 100%. In accordance with the law. And then we move on because I don't care.
And as far as I can see, as far as I can see, Hunter Biden is probably guilty. I mean, I haven't really looked into the case because I don't really care all that much because he's a private citizen that had absolutely no bearings on foreign affairs. But the little bit that I saw, that seems a little shady. That seems a little bad. We should probably,
But you didn't let me finish. So that was the preamble, and then the entire conversation for the rest of my involvement will be about Jared and Ivanka until you agree that they're infinitely worse and that they should be investigated.
It's not even close.
If there should be like a rule, like if I were a sitting Democrat, I'd be like, okay, you guys have investigated Hunter Biden this many times, so we're going to investigate Jared and Ivanka 4 times for every 1 time you investigated Hunter, just to grind the point in
Yeah.
that we're not going to accept this
And even like
asymmetry of
a 4 to 1
expectations.
is like,
Yeah,
homie, they were in the White House.
right.
They had political position. I forgot what exactly
They were white.
Jared Kushner.
They were called senior advisors. So it's like
Yeah.
it's
So
a
it's
generic blanket term, and then they
sure.
can each have their own portfolio. So
Yeah.
but Jared Kushner was like the attaché or Trump's primary representative to Saudi Arabia, to the point that
Yeah.
even like Rex Tillerson, his then Secretary of State, was like, who is the Secretary of State here, me or him?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, no, they had all the, if you remember, and this is the problem with Trump, because you forget about everything until like you start talking, and then like, oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you remember this. Jared Kushner was denied a security clearance. The FBI and the NSA wouldn't clear him for a security clearance. They're like, Mr. President, this dude is like $1 billion in debt and also a douchebag. We think that he would be susceptible to blackmail by foreign adversaries with that kind of liability. And Trump overruled them. Like, stupid son of a bitch couldn't get a security clearance. Hunter Biden never had a security.
So many people. It's not even that hard to get a security clearance. My girlfriend worked for the government and had to get a security clearance. Like, it's
so
not
much cooler than you.
I know, it's true. She actually said she might want to come on sometime. She said she's a little hesitant about getting in front of a camera, but
I'm waiting for her to like because again, she always scrubs her head. She puts like a brown bag over her head or something. Or like you know what she should do? She should get you remember Cillian Murphy's character in Batman Begins? Scarecrow?
Scarecrow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You need to lighten up, and then she sets you on fire and kicks you out of a window. I'd be
Well,
down.
she didn't. Oh no, he did do that.
He did.
Yeah.
He kicked
I was
Batman out
trying
of
to
the
think.
window.
It's hard to remember what is in his memory and what's
That's true.
not. But
Let's conclude with some comments here, and then we'll dip out. So let's see.
She is.
Yeah, let's start. Let's start with that. Kelly Lynn says,
she's
I
great.
bet your girlfriend's absolutely his better half by far. Don't
By
even like him
far.
all that much. But Sherbs is awesome. And by the way, I'm going to do this again. I'm going to remind everybody, when Stax and I do this, we are just kidding. I love Stax. I consider him. We're real life friends. We saved democracy together.
We did. We got Warnock elected. Me, him, and my better half.
Yeah, and mostly, to be honest, it was just me and his better half.
Which is weird because I said that twice. I said you twice.
Yeah.
Because you're my better half.
Oh, stop it. Okay, so let's see. Let's go all the way back up. Pop said, this might be my unpopular opinion, but I honestly think Biden is a great president for the time, especially with his war in Ukraine. If you guys have ever seen a speech on Bosnia, it feels like he is almost the president we need to deal with that situation.
That's an unpopular opinion for the country, not for this show, though. We love Biden.
Yeah. No, I think Biden, listen, when I say I think that Biden's, when I mentioned earlier that he was in a state of cognitive decline, I mean just like as a general, like what you typically expect of a person of that age. I don't think like he is still a statesman. He still has decades of experience. I just don't think he's as effective a communicator. Like the synapses between his brain and his mouth are corroded. That's it, right? There's no evidence whatsoever that this man is incompetent.
Look at the policies.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And if that's what incompetence looks like, more of it.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. So Lisa Lopez says it's just a choice of democracy or fascism, and Biden has more of his faculties than Trump. Stuttering has an effect also. Very true.
Has an effect.
Kelly Lynn says moderate doesn't exist anymore. It can't. No, there is. Yeah, it's like, what do they say? What's that expression? Like there are memes out there where a centrist is basically a right winger, just a cowardly one.
Yeah.
Let's see. Miles' voice says, to change the current presidential election, we need to start electing better candidates in House and Senate. Then legislation could be passed to change the system. We need to remove PAC money from politics. Get rid of Citizens United. You have anything to say on that?
Yeah. No. Yeah. But I do think that there can be centrists in this political environment. I know and work with a couple of them, but they go, oh yeah, obviously Trump is fucking deranged. That does not speak for the right. I'm sorry, I'm obviously not going to be voting for a fascist. I'll consider I'll maybe consider Chris Christie or something like that. But like that's like a normal ass centrist. But like any of these, like I see Trump and Biden as the same thing.
Right.
Okay, you're not you're not a centrist anymore.
Yeah, you've lost your mind at that point. Kelly Lynn says, wasn't an insurrection. He's a joke, whoever he is, referring to Constantine. Yeah, it was textbook insurrection. Carrie says fascism lives everywhere, unfortunately. Let's see.
Not a uniquely American issue. Unfortunately, we can see that with a lot of heads of state, Maloney especially, not to call out Italy, but yeah.
These three guys act like Trump is the first conservative ever. Yeah, and as somebody points out, Kellyanne, Trump was not even conservative before he ran. No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He's ideologically inconsistent. That's part and parcel of being a fascist.
Which 100%, because he's said on record multiple times, like, hey, I wanted to get behind the vaccine, and then people booed me, and then I just went, okay, I guess I don't like the vaccine.
Right.
Like it's populism 101. You are going to just say what people find infuriating or frustrating or they care about, and you have no actual morals or consistencies behind you.
Def Leppard, yes, second favorite band. There's Journey on top of it, very first favorite. Def Leppard second, then Matchbox 20 and Goo Goo Dolls, baby. Yeah, and then Kelly Lynn says, "Sorry, I commented a lot. Gotta get no."
Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah, no, Kelly.
We so appreciate
really,
you.
and Sherbs, his lovely girlfriend, appreciates it too because you recognize how lovely she is.
I'll let her know. She's taking a nap right now.
I don't know if, and probably she lost a bet. If you're wondering what happened, so she lost a bet.
Dating me.
Why would you say that?
Well, I thought that was the joke, that she's my better half, that she's, she
wow.
lost the bet,
I just think it's
so-
interesting that that's where you went with it. No, that's exactly what I was hinting at. Yeah. So I'll be out of town this weekend, so that's why we're doing this tonight. Usually we do it on Sunday afternoons. But yeah, everybody follow Staxioms on.
Thank you.
If you're on the TikTok, this is the thing he promises. It's like a really toxic ex that he swears he's done with, but he can never quite leave. Staxioms at Staxioms.
Yes. But follow me on YouTube too.
Yes.
I'm making more videos. I made a big long form video pretty recently, and I'm writing one right now. A second one. So I'm looking to do like video essays and things like that.
He did one a couple of weeks ago on YouTube. It's really, really good. It's called And Yet again. Yeah. It's entangled with the myth of Sisyphus and moral absurdism and things like that. It's really good. It's about 20 minutes long. I helped him edit it in terms of like he asked me for feedback. So if you love
can you
it,
just do this whole video for me?
Love it. We know who to thank. No, I'm just kidding.
But I post regularly on TikTok if you want to see daily posts. I'm always there.
Yeah, but he's gonna start going to YouTube, whether he likes it or not. Oh, you know what? We were also supposed to be streaming on Kick because I just made a Kick account, but I don't think it happened.
I should do the same.
You should.
I haven't even considered it until right now.
Full of good ideas. And then I'm still putting out 3 videos a day. I'm almost at 5,000 subs, so making progress, thanks in large part to the patronage of one Lucas Beasley on the Luke Beasley Show. Great guy. So I'm still trying to build up this audience. I would appreciate any likes, subscribe, comments, engagement. Send my channel to people that you like. Send my channel to people you hate. I'm cool with that. Hate subscribers and hate watchers are thing. I've got thick skin. As a matter of fact, one of the things that Stax and I used to do, we used to love this when we would do TikTok lives, is we love to pull in people who disagree with us and have a spirited conversation with it. And there weren't like exchange of F words or anything. Like it was chill. Yeah. But I'd love to get to that point here.
You know why we're able to do that? Because we have thicker skin than the former president of the United States.
That's true. Oh my God, you're right. We've been called names, and that means
you know how many times I've been called a moron on TikTok?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, probably literally hundreds of times.
Yeah.
And it is like you get over it.
And that's just me in his comment section. Lee Smith says, I saw you on Luke's channel and came over and subbed. Glad I found you. Keep up the good work. Lee, thank you, along with everybody else. But yeah, seriously, tell your friends about us because somebody's got to go out there and bully the right. And Stax and I are just the people for it. So
Stax.
Are you
right.
doing a panel anytime soon?
Panel? No, I don't think so. I've talked to Wick a little bit, but I was just on last week. I want
I
to say, was it
saw
just
you.
7 days ago? Yeah, it was affirmative action about the Supreme Court case today, but it was like a preemptive debate. I don't know. I'm not really doing anything recently. I'm mostly just kind of working on the little
I
YouTube
saw it
video.
from so I didn't watch the whole thing because it was 7 hours long. I watched about 45
It
minutes of
was.
it, and I thought it was interesting because it seemed like, unless I got the wrong vibe or just watched like a very specific 45 minutes, it seemed like at various points you and Kyla like instinctively slipped into like a good tag team
Yeah.
situation. Was that for like the duration of the panel? Like,
Yeah,
did
for
you
the
ever get
most part. Yeah, she was. I mean, she was a little bit more skeptical of affirmative action than I was. I took the very affirmative.
ah,
Nice.
ah,
No, I generally like affirmative action, but yeah, me and Kyla, especially when it against Kyla, just for anyone who doesn't know, not so erudite, very prominent Twitch streamer, political streamer around these parts. Do you know her? Well,
I want to say I know her well. We've
okay,
interacted a bit on like
sure,
she had me on a panel, and I've been on her like panel, and
sure,
that was really stupid. I don't know why I've been on her panel. Like, I have been on her stream. Like, when
sure,
she jumps into like a call with Steve. The problem is, so like she does more like culture stuff and social commentary because she has like a psychological background.
yeah,
And so that's just not my wheelhouse. So seems like she's delving more into the political arena lately, which is good.
for
Hopefully it'll
sure.
pull her even further left. She dunked on Republicans the other day.
It was great. Well, sorry, I don't. In the debate, we were just shitting on Lactoid the whole time. Who's like
Ah, Lactoid and
conservative
I got into it
libertarian.
earlier today too.
I love
Yeah.
it. I did see that, dude. Lactoid is. I respect Lactoid because he loves punching with other people.
Mhm.
Like it does feel like good fun, but also like, hey, you're a little bit insane. Twitter is Staxioms anywhere. I don't know if she's asking for me. Josiah, what's your
I
your
will
Twitter?
put it. I will put. I don't. I should have that.
Underscore pondering or underscore the pondering. I'm actually not sure.
Yeah, hang on, right here. This is my Twitter,
The pondering.
and then I'll show you Stax's here in a minute. Actually, I don't have your Stax.
It's
And fight the team. I'm gonna put.
okay.
It on.
I'm
Just wait. A
consistent.
shh.
My name's everywhere. It's
I know,
Staxiums
but you
regardless
need
of
like a
where.
little Chiron here.
True.
Can't fight the tears that
But you
ain't
can just.
coming.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to mess up your Goo Goo Dolls. Is that
It's
Iris?
Goo Goo
That's a
Dolls.
beautiful
Yeah,
song. Of
you
course.
know,
Of
girl,
course, I
you
know that
know.
song. It's a beautiful song. Listen, I was a huge Goo Goo Dolls fan when I was a kid. I like haven't listened to them a ton. I don't know if they've done it anyway. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, they put out a
Here's the
new
Twitter.
album like last year or something like that.
Was it good?
Yeah, they in Matchbox. I don't want to be like that guy who's like a purist for the
It was
greatest
like
hits because
better
I
in the 90s. They
no
look better in the 90s.
because that's the thing. Like, I love it when my favorite bands continue to put out music. Like, again, when Journey and Def Leppard do it, but I got to call balls and strikes. And like the new Matchbox 20 album didn't really have a real like banger. Like,
Sure.
they have Wild Dogs, they have Don't Get Me Wrong, but then it's like they go off in these. I don't know. I like them when they were at their best, which was like kind of pop rock,
Early
where they would have some
2000s.
ballads, but also like Girl Like That and 3 a.m. and Real
Those are some
World and
great
Bent.
songs.
Yeah.
Those are the only
And
that's the only Matchbox 20 I know though. Like I haven't listened to them in 10 years.
no, it's fair. And that's the thing. Like,
Or I've listened to them recently, but only their songs from 10 years ago.
yeah, their last
Or probably
album
more
they
than 10
put
years
out
ago.
before that was North in 2012, and that was She's So Mean. She's so mean. You never let her go.
Why did I who started this tangent? Got
don't
you
know.
singing.
That's all right. We're gonna do a duet. By the way, I don't know if you know this, but Stax and Pondering Politics, we're gonna produce our own duet album. Yeah.
It's cute.
I think. Didn't you say that we were gonna
Announcing it to
do?
the stream before you announced it to me. I think
Well,
it's.
didn't you
bold.
say that we were gonna do like the new theme too? Because James Cameron was gonna do a new movie based on the
Well, I said I
Titans
was.
submersible.
I said I was.
I thought you said that it was gonna be called
No, I think you.
My Heart Will Go because
Yeah, I got it.
that was
It
because
wasn't
the
even.
implosion.
It was fine.
Because
It was a fine
My Heart Will
joke.
Go.
That's a little bit better delivery.
Yeah.
I think the ksh is a little unclear. Like it kind of sounds like static as well. It's like, was that an implosion or?
I think you're probably right.
Yeah,
but seriously, folks, please spread the word so we can become like full-time commentators and just like dunk on the right at all times. Like that would make me so happy. They say
that would
like
be
do what
so
you love
beautiful.
and you'll never work a day in your life. And the thing that brings me the most joy is being mean to Republican leaders. So I would love the opportunity to do that full time. I'm just thinking wistfully.
I agree. We got to get going though.
Yeah, we
It's been a
do.
long show. It's been good.
It has been good. Thanks for showing up 45 minutes late. This would have been an hour and 20-minute show if you'd showed up on time, dick.
Wait, no, we've been here for at least an hour.
I
No,
don't
we've been
think
here for
so.
just under an hour and a
Stop
half.
it. I don't think so.
For sure. No, because I came here. No, wait, it's been over an hour and a half.
I love how I'm gaslighting.
I swear. I'm like trying to do the math in my head. I'm like, wait, am I losing my mind?
2 Mississippi.
All right.
All right, buddy. Hey, have a good weekend.
Thank you.
And
You
we'll
too.
see you
Where
all.
are you going? Do you want to
back to Kentucky? So,
nice.
ironically enough, for a Matchbox 20 concert, I'm not even playing. So 3 years ago, before the pandemic, one of my sisters and I and my brother-in-law got tickets to see because they were doing their Matchbox 2020 tour.
Yeah.
And then pandemic hit, and so it got delayed, and then delayed, and then delayed. And here I am, in Charlotte, and I want to see them here in Charlotte, but the ticket for Nashville got so then I'm like, okay, well, fourth weekend, so I'll come out and see everybody and then go to this concert and then head back. So that's why we're doing all this tonight.
Gotcha. You know a different way of wording that answer? Going to a concert.
Yeah, but you know what? Listen, here's the thing.
Here's
the way I look at it. You don't
necessarily need all that extra information.
Hey, listen.
Yeah.
I just enjoy engaging with you, okay? I take this friendship seriously, unlike you.
True.
Yeah, this is completely lopsided. And
Facts.
Yeah. Kelly, all of you, but especially Kelly, thank you for consistently and persistently participating. You all were the good company I was looking for. Stax was also here, but all right, I'll give you the last word. Anything you want to say to everybody?
No, follow me on the places. I'm Staxioms everywhere. Thank you for watching.
All right.
Love you
Bye,
all.
everybody.